some people won't know who you are. Some people know you really well when they see this. So tell us a little bit about who you are.
Oh, okay. Barry Darcy. I've got a business called Ocean Earth Chefs, and we deal with chefs for yachts, villas, and chalets. It's a new business that's been running for the last 2 years, and that's been tied in with my experience of spending 22 years on motor yachts as a chef and in villas. And prior to that, I was working in London and Australia as a chef.
Okay, so you come from Australia originally.
Yeah.
So when did you first come to Europe?
I came after the breakup of a relationship when I was 25 years of age.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was a good opportunity to test myself. And I used to work with an Austrian pastry chef back in Australia in a hotel. And he used to say to the Australians that worked there, because there was mainly Europeans that were there, and he said, you Australians wouldn't last a day in Europe working in a European kitchen. And I always wondered what he meant by that. Because everyone spoke to each other. Excuse me. It was all first name basis. None of this.
What, in the kitchen?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
None of this chef.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was all first name basis, and and the music would be playing and be sort of light-hearted banter with the other chefs. So it was always a good vibe, and that's why I always wondered what he meant. And then when I went to Europe, I went to work in the UK after the relationship meltdown. Yeah, I knew exactly what he meant.
Yeah, of course. I mean, first time I ever worked in the kitchen was in France. Head chef was chef, sous chef was chef,
Yeah.
and it went down until everybody put. And the thing is, it was like the tone of voice you used when you said the word chef. They knew who you meant. That sounds ridiculous as well, but if you've worked in a kitchen, you know that. When one chef says something, you go, we chef, yes chef, whatever it might be. By the tone of voice that you say it, the chef who you're talking to kind of knows it's them that you're applying to as well, which is funny.
Well, and the thing was, my first day in a kitchen in London, it was a bit of a...
Did you get stabbed?
I didn't get stabbed, but I got to know my place very quickly, and walked into the kitchen, and the kitchen I was working on, I was looking for the ice machine. They said, okay, we don't have an ice machine, but you have to go to the kitchen next door. They were both affiliated.
Yeah.
So I went to the kitchen next door, and there was a guy standing there, a chef standing there, and I said, hey mate, do you know where the ice machine is? And he turned around to me and he said, my name's not mate, it's chef. So it was right about that point that I realised I needed to sharpen up.
Yeah.
I need to sort of wake up, and I sort of knew that
things were different.
Yeah, very, very different.
It's a term of endearment in Europe. If you're a chef and you're working with chefs, you call them chef. I mean, I work with hundreds of chefs. They're all chef. Somebody says, how do you know who they are when you say chef? I go, because it's got their name on the phone.
Yeah.
But in reality, everybody's chef. They've earned that right. They are the head chef, or they're the chef on the vessel in our case. It's absolutely essential that they understand I know where that line is. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. It's like everybody knows their place, and the person that you're calling chef has earned his place as well.
Yeah, most of the time.
I'd say most of the time. I worked with some crazy ones in London, and then there was one guy called Louis in the restaurant. He owned the restaurant, and he used to sleep in the restaurant.
Oh, really?
He'd bring friends in at night time and entertain those, and he couldn't be bothered going home. So we'd roll up at 7:30 in the morning, and like, where's Louis? And he'd sort of stumble out of the back room of the restaurant and open the doors up and let us in. He slept on the sofa for the night.
Really?
So yeah.
Normal behaviour though, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, you get the job done. Sometimes you need to relax, have some fun. You've got some friends around, and you like, what's the point in going home at 3 in the morning if you've got to be in at 7?
And he was a pretty serious guy.
Yeah.
And he's not the sort of guy that he was probably one of the defining points of my introduction to London.
Okay.
In the sense that I realised how professional things were.
Yeah.
In London compared to Australia.
So do you think that is still the case now?
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
I think the food scene has certainly changed in Australia over the years, and it's become a lot more professional. And there's a lot more Europeans involved in the Australian food scene now. But I would say it's still got that laid-back feel about it.
Yeah.
There is.
But that's Australia. There is a very, very relaxed feel about conversations between people in a workplace. Very, very calm and relaxed. It's not taken too seriously. I think in Europe, the food industry, especially in the kitchen, is taken extremely seriously. I'm not sure why there's that difference. I suppose it all comes from France, doesn't it? I suppose, and filters down. A lot of people do their training in France, and once they've done that training, they go, well, I've earned my right now for people to call me chef, so you're going to fucking do it. Peel the spuds, mate.
Where did you do your training?
I didn't do any training. I went to the Alps, worked in a kitchen, was trained by the head chef. A real simple process. I realised day one I was bottom of the food chain. I knew I had absolutely zero value in the world at that point. I was paid very low wages, lots of hours. I wanted to learn, and I came up with a very simple plan, which is learn everything you can from the man at the top. Number one goal for me was learn as much as I could. So the chefs would say to me in the morning, right, get the potatoes peeled. It'd be two bags of 25 kilos. I had to get them done ASAP. So I'd say to him, how long have I got? And the first time I asked him, he said to me, like a minute. I was like, okay, that's not going to work. But I went, honestly, what's the time limit? And he gave me a time limit. I can't even remember. It was like 30 minutes or something. And I sort of sat there and fucking I said, right, if I beat your time, you have to teach me something in the kitchen. You have to teach me how to make the pizza dough or the tomato sauce base you put on it or whatever it may be that you're making that week, because he would change the menu a lot. And he said, fine, no problem. And he sort of had this little glint in his eyes as to go, oh, we've got somebody who wants to learn. So we can put him through his paces real well. Because if you look like you want to learn, somebody takes that on. A good professional chef will take it on and he'll push you until breaking point. And that's pretty much what he did. But every time I beat one of his times, he would teach me something. And I learned more probably in the first 6 months of being in the kitchen than any other time in my life. The speed at which I learned stuff was incredible. And it was all basically to that challenge every day. And that's just basically because I'm competitive. I couldn't help it. If it's 30 minutes, I'll do it in 29. But I'll do it to a good quality in 29. I learned that the hard way as well. You can't do a 30-minute job in 29 unless it's done professionally. And that's another big thing that people forget. People go, oh, do it in 29 minutes, but you look back, half of them appeal badly. Or you've only got half the spud left. So you have to do it correctly within the time limit. And that's something which I've carried on with me all the way through my work in life. Working for other people and now working for myself is making sure that I do it in the fastest possible time to the highest possible level. Yeah. There's no I don't allow either of those to slip, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I understand. And how old were you at the time?
20.
Okay, that's a good age to start too.
I think younger than that, I think you just don't get anything, and I think older than that takes a bit longer to learn. I think it's a good time. I had a good time. I had a really fun time when I worked out there. I was in the French Alps. I had a fantastic time skiing. I used to finish, if I did the morning shift, it would be 7 o'clock till 3 in the afternoon. And then at 3 o'clock, I'd have to jump into my skis, jump on the mountain, and try and get an hour and a half of skiing in. But I was always on my own, and I couldn't ski. And nobody gave me a lesson, so I'd just be flying all over the place, falling over, bruises and cuts, and you can imagine it. Walking back in the galley the next morning, aching. You know, when you're 20, you bounce, don't you?
Oh, so you're pretty bulletproof.
Yeah, exactly. So how long were you in London?
I was in London for 6 years, and I'd actually say that it was probably the period in London was when I became ambitious. It's sort of odd, really, because prior to that, and I arrived in London when I was 25 years of age, I wouldn't have said that I was ambitious. I was just ticking along. Yeah. And I had like I say, serious girlfriend at the time. And life, maybe it was because life was good and easy. Yeah. In Australia, it's a comfortable life. Yeah. And you know, I was doing all right for myself. So, but it's only when I went to London, and I was sort of confronted by just the mayhem, really, of the kitchen, the chaos of the kitchen. Yeah. And London's a pretty seductive place, and just the energy of the kitchen just absorbed me, and I didn't want to leave. But London's a pretty harsh city, and after 6 years, I was pretty burned out, and it was time to go. But Yeah, London's a fantastic place.
I just turned the sound off my phone because I realised that'll ring in a minute.
Okay.
It's right, yeah, it's in the middle of the summer season here in start of June, so, I just thought, hold on a minute, that's going to ring. Yeah, London is an addictive place in many respects because it is very, very competitive in the chefing world, particularly.
Yeah. And probably a bit like yourself too. When I was there, and I saw how good the other chefs were. You want to lift yourself, you want to raise your game. I was even when I was in Australia with the European chefs, and I recognised how good they were, and then sort of being back in London again. I wanted to be part of that, and I wanted to be as good as. And it was always my focus that if someone could do something better than me or faster than me, I wanted to be as good as or as fast as them.
Cool.
So that was, I think that was really when things really took off. And I'd write menus on a Sunday. I sort of threw myself into work.
Yeah.
And which was really just probably the shape of things to come. Because after 6 years in London, I got involved in yachting, and I spent the next 22 years on yachting.
Wow, so you did so 6 years London, 22 years on yachts.
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
Is there anything you can't cook?
Good question. I think what kept me hungry all those years through my working career as a chef was, I guess in some ways you're always trying to reinvent yourself and try different things.
Yeah.
So there's it's one of those, like any job really, you're always learning. There's always something new. So I think for me it was just keep learning, keep expanding, keep trying new things.
Yeah.
Keep hungry.
Yeah.
So literally. So
I think, excuse me, I sort of went back from France to the UK backwards and forwards a few times over the years. I remember at one point I think one of the best lessons I ever learned really in cooking, anything to do with cooking, well, there's a million lessons of course, but one that really sort of jumps to the top for me was basically I got to that point where I got quite bored of everything. I was moving around a lot, and I got to this point where I was like, I can't go into a hot kitchen. I need to get away. But you know what it's like. Even though you decide to do something different, for some reason you end up with your hands in the kitchen again. You don't know how it happened. I remember I went to London, stayed with a mate of mine, and he'd just bought a house in Hackney, and I'd phoned him and said, I'm going to come back to London. What are you doing? He said, well, I just bought this house. Why don't you come and stay with me and get a job around the area and we'll have a fun summer? And I was like, yeah, cool, no problem. So I went to get a job in what I thought was a high-class city bar. And I thought, that's cool. That's nothing to do with food. I could do with having a couple of shandies at the end of the day and living that other side of the life for a bit. And it was actually part and owned by a Michelin star chef in London, a French guy. And I didn't know that when I went there. So I got the interview with the manager. He said, yeah, come and start Monday. I was no problem. Went in Monday. Within fucking 2 weeks, I've got the head chef coming in, showing me how to do all the small plate food. And he said, nobody in here gets it at all, but you've got the concept. I was like, God, he doesn't even know I'm a chef, does he? He doesn't know I've ever chefed at all. I mean, I'm not classically trained, but when you're working with chefs, you get used to how things are done. Yeah. You tidy up after yourself. You make sure it's neat and tidy. He loved all that. And the next thing, I see this guy wandering in, looking at me, and he's got a chef's outfit. I'm not really paying any attention, but I know he's watching. And the next thing he's showing me stuff. He's taking me in the kitchen next door. He's showing me how to do one of the sauces. And that's where I learned layering of flavour. That guy taught me basically something no other chef had told me about. Before that point, obviously you learn it if you're doing classical training. But every chef previously to that, whenever I'd learned anything, would just say, basically, this is the recipe. Make it this way. So I just made it that way. I didn't realise it was an option.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And all of a sudden, I've been opened my eyes to the fact that, layering of the flavours, even though you can't actually taste that flavour, it's the way it changes the others in a really subtle way, which makes it a more rounded, fuller flavour. All these little things started to sort of flicker in my mind. And it was all basically because I was cleaning down the work surface, making sure it looked nice when people came in to buy a silly bottle of wine and have a tapas.
But there's something, though, the chef must have noticed about you. You must have stood out from the crowd.
Yeah, I don't know why.
Yeah. There's always people out there looking for looking for people who can do things well or do things better.
Yeah.
And you do. I think when you do, it's very subtle. You know, when you see somebody who stands out from the crowd, and it doesn't have to be in a bold way. It can be in a very subtle way. And even with cooking, if you watch the way somebody works.
Yeah.
And if they're organised and they're clean and tidy and they work efficiently, I mean that's
season.
Yeah, well, yeah, and that
Basic stuff. Yeah,
that's in complete contrast to somebody who's the opposite. That would stand out a mile away.
Yeah, yeah, so. And it's true even now within my business. Now, when people come and start working here, literally within an hour, you just know somebody's got it. They've just got the I don't know what it is. It just shines, and it shines bright. And you don't expect it from anybody, because that's the world we live in. You don't expect anybody to shine bright. But some people, they walk in the room and you can just tell they've got their shit together. Yeah. And it's so nice when you see it, because it gives you that little smile. You go, maybe this person could really, one, help the business, but make it more fun. Because actually, having a team around you who get it, it's more fun environment, because everyone's working off each other. It's not competitive. It's just teamwork. And each member completes their job really well and goes above and beyond and wants to achieve, and you can feel that growing within a company sometimes, as opposed to other times when you can't feel it. It's like the same in the kitchen. Sometimes you can see it's completely disjointed. People don't want to be there. They don't understand it. They don't get it. And other kitchens you walk into, you see this well-oiled, functioning machine where nobody gets upset with each other for being called names. They just take it on the chin and go, he's right, and they get on with it. And you can see the difference when you walk in, can't you?
Yeah, you can see when places are on it. But how did Riviera Gourmet come about?
At desperation, pretty much. I think everything good starts with a cloud.
Okay.
I'd worked for 3 different companies in the south of France over 3 summers. None of them offered me winter work. It's very difficult to survive in the south of France without winter work. It's a holiday resort after all. So what do you expect? If you're going to live in a holiday resort all year round, expect a downtime, but also expect your busy time to be super busy. So you've got to be able to handle that. But a lot of people come to the south of France and they don't realise that. They think, oh, it's fine, I'll just get a job all year, same as Paris. But it's not the same as Paris. It's not the same as London. It is a holiday resort. It's open 5 months a year, maximum, if not 3.5. So you got to get lucky to get that year-round job. But yeah, I struggled, really struggled to start with, and got treated, I would say, in my opinion, quite poorly.
Did you have to prove yourself? Or?
I'll be honest with you. When I first came here, the yachting food side of things was pretty shocking.
In what way?
They just didn't have a fucking clue what they were doing. They were just making it up as they went along. They just buy everything in Metro. Buy everything in Metro. Meat not sous vide, fish not sous vide. Didn't really know what they were ordering the wrong stuff continuously. Now, if we make a mistake, it's actually a mistake down the line where there's been a communication issue. In those days, there was no communication issue. They sent an email out as the client sent in a list. They'd send it straight to a provider. Do you know what an agent's like? A yacht agent. A yacht agent generally, they'll do whatever the boat asks them to do, won't they? And they'll charge them for hours, whatever it might be. That's kind of how yacht provisioning used to be. You send them a list, they just send it to someone else, which is what a yacht agent does. But the yacht agent makes money because they know who to send it to. Yeah. So with the food supplies, or some of them, what they were doing is getting a list, sending it out to a butcher, that to a fishmonger, that to a fruit and veg guy, or going around Metro and picking up fruit and veg, which, as we know, is stored in the wrong temperature. You can't store your salad leaf in the same temperature you can your courgette or your strawberries. So if it's in one room that's at 16 degrees, it's not going to work, is it?
So what was the golden moment when you thought, right, this is what I'm going to do?
Passed out on the beach on a Sunday from exhaustion. And my partner at the time took me home and said, you can't continue like this. You're working stupid hours, getting paid fuck all, and you're getting abused by these people. They're just abusing you pretty much.
And how old are you at this stage?
36, 37 at that point. And I think the first time I got involved in yacht provisioning, the first summer, the conversation was, what margin should we put on it? Well, nobody seems to complain, so just bang 60% on it. That's what the office conversation was. Nobody knew what to charge for an apple, so they just went bang 60% on it. And there was no care, there was no attention to detail, there was no understanding of the food. And I immediately, within a few weeks, just thought to myself, fucking hell, there's an opportunity here. Because I didn't know what to do with my life. I still actually don't know what to do with my life. Every day I wake up and go, maybe I'll come up with a good idea today. But you have to do something. So do something you have some passion about. And food is something I have an immense amount of passion about. I absolutely hate poor quality food. I hate going to Jamie Oliver's restaurants, which I've accidentally done a couple of times in my life, because it's so obvious nobody gives a fuck at all about the food in any shape or form. It's basically a marketing machine that oversells crap and pretends it's Italian or whatever it may be. Really upsets me. I'm not having a go at Jamie Oliver. He's obviously sold his name to these clowns who've gone around the world opening Jamie Oliver's restaurants. But Jamie has to take some responsibility for the shitfest that you get when you go in there, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, I was in Doha Airport recently. Yeah, there's a Jamie Oliver's in there.
Of course there is.
And a Gordon Ramsay.
And a Gordon fucking Ramsay plain food. Is it plain food?
No, I think it was burgers.
Okay.
Yeah.
And? Give us a review.
What did I have? I did have a burger.
Of course you did. Did you go to Ramsay's or Oliver's?
Yeah, Ramsay's. That was pretty ordinary, really.
Was it?
Yeah.
I just don't think those things translate particularly well. And I know that, I was in Dubai whenever it was, a couple of years ago. I was in the mall, having a wander on a very hot day. Great place to be with the aircon on. I had a nice wander around. I was told, go to Dubai Mall. So I went there for some bizarre reason. And still don't know why. Every morning I look at myself in the mirrors and brushing my teeth, and I shake my head at myself for going in there. But I went to Jamie Oliver's Italian, whatever he called it. It was absolutely atrocious. I mean, atrocious food. Like embarrassing level. Just awful, awful food. Badly cooked, badly prepared, bad recipes. Somebody at some point has gone, I'm not bothered anymore. And you can feel it. The moment you sit down, you look at the menu. I sat and looked at the menu, I went, even the menu says I don't care.
But so some of these menus, these almost like institution-like...
Celebrity chef restaurants.
Don't translate in other countries. I remember years ago, I did go to Jamie Oliver's in Brisbane, and it was good. It was actually good. This is in the very early days. But when you talk about, say, the places in the Middle East, the Gordon Ramsays and the Jamie Olivers, no. They, for whatever it is, it doesn't translate.
I think I know why.
Why?
Basically, it's a money thing. And I noticed this with a restaurant here locally, near where I live, near Antibes. I'm not going to mention the restaurant. It would be unfair, because they've gone. But there's a restaurant on the beach. It was lovely. Italian, really nice. It wasn't on the beach, it was on the other side of the road, but it overlooked the beach. Very lovely. Found it one day, went down, had a lovely Italian meal, beautiful chairs to sit in, really nice environment, lovely staff, professional, food was great. I thought, fucking hell, I found a good restaurant here. You know when you find a really nice, simple place, but really nice, and you just go, oh yeah, I found a nice place. This is my sort of go-to when I'm a bit depressed and I want to just have a nice bite of Italian food. Really happy with it. I thought, wow. Didn't complicate the menu, simple but really nice, but smart place. You felt a little bit special when you went in there. They were always very kind and pleasant. If they remembered you, that it's so nice, they'd be welcome you back, and I'll get you a nice table, bullshit, which I love. Sometimes I've had a hard day, I want to be looked after. There's nothing wrong with that. That's why I go to a restaurant. And that was about 2 years, and all of a sudden I went there one night and it had just gone downhill. And the reason it had gone downhill is they'd had a bad winter. They tried to stay open all winter. They had very little amount of trade. Maybe at the weekends, Friday, Saturdays, they'd have a bit. The rest of the time it was terrible. So instead of just go, you know what, we're going to close Monday to Thursday or Sunday to Thursday. We're going to open twice a week and do great quality and just be busy for 2 nights. They obviously were open quite a lot, empty most of the time, couldn't pay their bills, so they reduced the quality. They went, you know what, we're buying, as a simple thing, if you're making an Italian sauce, a lot of restaurants will use Muti. Okay,
what's that?
Muti is the brand of tomatoes in a tin.
Okay.
Very popular in France and Italy. Very popular on yachts. Great quality. Nothing wrong with using that, in my opinion, to make your sauce, your tomato sauce for pasta. As long as you don't just pour it on. You have to do something with it. But great starting point. If you go from that quality to Metro Arrow brand, which is 36 pence a can, you're going to have some fucking problems. Okay,
say no more.
Say no more. You're going to have some problems with your food. It's not going to taste as nice. And I think that's what happened, where they went, we can't afford to keep that level, so we're going to have to go down. And what we'll do is, nobody will know. Everybody knew. So the moment you had a bit of, you had your meatballs, you went, okay, this has gone to shit. Immediately, first bite. So you don't go back. And they got quieter and quieter and quieter, eventually closed. Next thing, someone else has got a restaurant there. That lasts 6 months. Next year, someone else has got a restaurant, lasts 5 months. And this has been going on for years now. The same place keeps getting bought, the font de commerce, the business, bought by somebody else who has this dream, which everybody in the restaurant industry has a dream, which I love. But it's very difficult to do that in the south of France. Really hard, because you've got no trade for 7 months a year. So how do you pay your bills?
It's probably very similar to where I am in Mallorca.
Palma, yeah.
You've got sort of quite a winter period in the summers.
Yeah.
But post-COVID, I notice even the restaurants that I used to go to, the food isn't as good.
Yeah.
Post-COVID, everyone's cutting costs.
Yeah.
Maybe the portions are 10% smaller.
Yeah.
And they're using low quality ingredients, and you think this is just not what I remember.
Yeah. I have become quite disillusioned with restaurants. When I go to a good restaurant now, I can't stop talking about it because it's so rare. Some really top-end restaurants. I was invited, I don't know if I can even say the name, very famous, very top-end restaurant I was invited to by some people recently. I was the most disappointed I've been since I realised that curry was a bad idea and spent 24 hours on the toilet a few years ago. It was, for a 3-star Michelin, a fucking disgrace. An absolute disgrace. I was expecting to be blown away. A 3-star Michelin, which makes me think that the Michelin guide's fucked up. They've got something fucking wrong. They have to have got something wrong somewhere. Who are the people who are testing the food? Who are these clowns? Because I need to see their face. I need to see, actually, when I open the Michelin guide, if they want to make it genuine, I need to know who the people are who are testing the food. Because if it's Mickey Mouse and Donald fucking Duck, I'm not interested. I don't care what they like. I want to know who the people are. I need to know that they're either a chef, so they understand food. I've got no idea whether they have any taste buds. They could be an alcoholic or a smoker. I don't know. And I'm going to a restaurant based on somebody I've never met's opinion.
It's funny you should say that, because I went to, it was a 3 Michelin star restaurant in London. This is probably 6 years ago now, and it's the most expensive meal I've ever paid for.
Yeah,
it was a lot. I feel embarrassed. I feel embarrassed. I wouldn't tell my family. I wouldn't tell my mother how much it cost.
Really?
She would think, you need.
Was it with wine or not without wine?
Without wine.
Without wine. So.
And she would think I'd gone mad if I told her how much I'd paid for it. And I was disappointed that this is.
Having said that, if you're a tennis player, they'll more than happily spend €500 to go and sit on Wimbledon and watch the final. You're a chef and a head chef. Yeah, I get why you'd go and spend that money. It's your business. It's something you have passion for. You spending $500-600 a head on an exquisite meal, there's nothing wrong with that. Because a lot of people go, well, I like Taylor Swift, so I'll fly to Paris, stay in a hotel, buy a ticket for £300 and sit and watch Taylor Swift singing songs I could have listened to on Spotify. So if that's your thing, I actually don't think you should have a worry about that, because it's your profession, it's what you love.
I guess when you talk about the experience, and when the experience doesn't equal what your expectations are, it would have been different. Had I sat there and really enjoyed it and thought this is fantastic, okay, I wouldn't have been bothered by it.
Did you feel like you'd been mugged?
Yeah.
Do you think you were putting the bins out at midnight and somebody mugged you?
I was just disappointed. I actually wrote a bit of a scathing review as well.
Oh, did you? Where? Where did you put it?
That was on probably TripAdvisor.
I'll have to have a read.
And having said that, I think 2 years later it was closed. The place closed down.
Yeah. So you already knew.
So so things are already on the slide.
What's your TripAdvisor handle? Are you taking the piss?
Actually, I don't know. So,
because I've wanted to do that for a while. I've wanted to start doing reviews of restaurants because arrogantly, I think my opinion counts more than others. Which it doesn't, but I think it does. But I really believe that I give a good review, because if it's good, I'll go crazy about it, and if it's terrible, I'll tell everybody too. And I went to another one last year, a famous restaurant in the south of France. I came out with the most classic line. I think I've said this before on the podcast, but anyway, I'm going to tell you because you haven't heard it, because it was my best put. I learned a put down from a chef many years ago in a restaurant where we walked in. I took a chef from a boat to dinner, and he wanted to go to this restaurant up in the hills out of this area, up sort of 30-40 minutes away, Michelin restaurant. And I was like, working really hard. He's a great client. I wanted to take him for dinner and his girlfriend, so I did it. It was like, yeah, let's do it. End of the season. When we walked in, he said to them, is the chef here? And they went, yeah. He said, he's got his recipe book. Is there any way when we finish the meal we could have 2 copies, one for Damian, one for me, signed? And she went, yeah, no problem. Awful meal. And at the end of the meal, he just literally turned to the waiter and said, has he signed those recipe books yet? And she went, oh yes, I'll bring them over. He went, oh, that's a shame. And that to me was the best put down I've ever heard in a restaurant, because he didn't need to be rude. He just made this comment about, oh damn, he's signed them. Do you see my point? And it was really clever. Yeah. But I went to this restaurant, which was shocking, like probably the worst place I think I've ever been in my life. Famous, but awful. 3 courses, set menu, ridiculously outrageous price. The first meal, the first dish, and it was one word for each of the starters. There was 3 starters. It was ham. I went, oh. Do you know what you're like as a chef? You go, I wonder what he's done with the ham. So I went, well, I'll have the ham. I thought, this could be interesting. I wonder what he's done, because for the price, it's going to be good. I've read about this place. It's going to be good. It looked like it was 2 pieces of Herta ham taken out of a pack and just put on a plate. And when I got it, I went, that's the side dish. I was sort of looking around, and I saw everyone else's crap meals, and I went, but I didn't say anything because I was with a group of people. I didn't want to really say anything. And it built up. Next course came, which was cochon de porc. So it's supposed to be spit roast pork, right? A portion of that, whatever that may well be. It came all bone. They just gave me the rack bone bit. There's no meat on it, so it was inedible. And then the dessert menu came, and there was 3 on it. And I thought, well, you can't fuck up a chocolate mousse, can you? So I ordered the chocolate. But it turns out you can fuck up a chocolate mousse. So I learned something else that day.
You sort of wonder what they're thinking sometimes.
I know the guys bought a powder out of Metro, added a bit of water to it, stirred it, and shoved it in the fridge, and it's just come out plomped on your plate, and it's completely terrible. I took 1 bite, put my spoon down. I'm not even a bother. Waiter came over and went, "Is there something wrong with your dessert?" And I looked at him and went, "That's the 2nd worst thing I've ever eaten in my life." And he went, "Oh, I'm sorry. What was the first worst thing?" And I went, "It's the fucking main course, mate." and I couldn't help it, because it was absolutely shocking. I mean, I paid, I walked out, I'll never go back. And I thought to myself, oh yes, I'm going to start a TripAdvisor account, and I'm going to start giving actual reviews. I haven't done it yet for some reason, because I know I'm just going to be scathing to hell at some places, and I don't want to be a negative person. I don't want to spend my life being negative, but I won't be able to help myself, because it'll be the only way I can get out all my frustrations of working, being in the yachting industry, whatever it may, have a bad day, right? Fucking straight on TripAdvisor. I don't want to be that person.
No, I completely get you.
Awful food. I mean, literally, just shocking.
And TripAdvisor, I think, has got to be taken with a grain of salt too, because there's a place where I live in Palma, and there's a Mexican restaurant around the corner, and I went there years ago when it first opened up, and it was pretty bad. And then I went like 2 years later with some friends, and I thought, oh, it has to be better than what it was.
Couldn't be worse, could it?
2 years ago, it was exactly the same.
Really?
It was, and I looked on TripAdvisor, and it's got a rating of 4.3 or 4.6.
Yeah.
And every night, it's full. Like all the tables out the front, it's full.
Is it a good location?
Yeah.
Yeah. You see, that's the problem.
But
That's a problem with a good location. You can get away with serving shit because it's a good location. And sometimes you find a cracking restaurant with nobody in it, amazing food. The proprietary and his wife or husband are sitting there looking bored as piss. And you're thinking, poor bastards have put a lot of effort into that. He's a good chef. She's a good chef. And I've got amazing service and food, and there's no one in here because the location's bad.
I think I was making the point about TripAdvisor, and that this had good ratings, reasonably good ratings, and yet the food was terrible.
So why is that?
I have no idea. It's an anomaly.
Do you drive?
No.
You don't drive? Okay.
I've got a licence, but in Palma, parking's a big problem, and where I live, it's such a small city anyway. You can walk from one side to the other in 20, 30 minutes.
Well, I think you'll find the answer to why TripAdvisor is lying to you when you go and drive on the streets, because you're going to see the morons who put recommendations on TripAdvisor indicating left and turning right, going the one way down a one-way street, parking in 2 spaces in the car park. You're going to see this happen a lot, and you're all of a sudden going to go, now it makes sense.
Now I get it.
That's why TripAdvisor is full of lies. Because these are the people who are also giving their opinion. TripAdvisor is an opportunity for anybody to give an opinion on anything, hotel, restaurant, whatever it may be. But it's like we should come up with our own site where you have to be having worked in the food industry for a certain amount of years before you're allowed to open an account. And only at that point can you give your opinion.
Maybe it should be scrutinised a bit more. So,
how do you scrutinise it?
Good question.
Common sense test. You get your application, you go on, there's my email address, my password, immediately you get your email address, a common sense test. You don't pass 90%, you can't have babies, you can't
have a driver's license.
You can't have a driving license, you're not allowed to open a business.
the list goes on.
And you're not allowed to put recommendations on TripAdvisor.
I guess there's always a way.
Yeah, it's a difficult thing though. You're right, I look at TripAdvisor. I mean, I've stopped making a choice now based on TripAdvisor because I've been let down so many times. So what's the point?
And what for you has been with the new business? Well, the new warehouse here, the new business. What have been the most confronting things about taking on the new project? I mean, it's a decent scale what you've done.
Yeah, it's probably a bit big, isn't it?
Oh. Ambitious?
Yeah, it's a bit ambitious. I mean, the list of challenges is so incredibly long. In fact, it got to that point where the challenges were so high, so out of my realm of grasp, that I actually felt very relaxed and calm because I knew that none of it really matters. It's too big to be concerned about. And I think when something's so far over and above what you're used to, you feel more calm because you know that you can only do your best. You can only push forward and try. No amount of worry is going to solve the problem. That doesn't help. The best thing to do is just crack on. And the other thing I learned, and this project more than any other, I mean, obviously Riviera Gourmet's been going a while. It was Riviera SOS before that, but the fact is, it's been going a while now, and never before had I learned the lesson, and it's really the last 2 years that I've learned, is that you can only do the step today that you can do. So do the step, concentrate on that step, and then tomorrow you've got another step, and you just keep going with the steps. You can't look at the top of the mountain, because I know from previous working as a business owner that when you get to the top of the mountain, there's another one anyway. So it's not like you're achieving any goal. You get to the top, there's another mountain. Get to the top of that, another mountain. So it's actually not relevant, the top of the mountain. The only thing that matters is the step. And for many years, I've had a problem with the journey. I had a massive problem with the journey.
In what way?
I've always wanted the end result, not the journey.
Yeah.
This process, which is over 2-year process, has made me enjoy the journey more because I couldn't have it finished when I wanted it finished. I mean, the sign in the front door has only been put up in the last few weeks, but that's my vision of I wanted that sign lit up on a slate wall for 5 years, and it only went up 3 weeks ago. You have to accept you can't finish the job now, today, if it takes 2 days, and you can't finish a 2-year project in the first month. So don't put pressure on yourself to believe you can. Don't live in a fantasy land. Accept it's a long process. You may die before you get to the end of it. You may have had a breakdown before you get to the end of it. You may have alienated all friends and family by the time you get to the end of it. But the day you sign the paper and go, I'm going for it, concentrate on it, smile, try not to let too many people fuck you. When you do get fucked, accept the fact that you got fucked because you didn't know and you learnt. Take that lesson, and the next day is the next step.
That's pretty good advice. Yeah, that's very sound advice. I mean, I can actually get a bit out of that too. So.
I think whenever you meet anybody who's got a business, you learn something. I mean, we were talking earlier about the trials and tribulations of being business owners, and obviously, I want to find out a little bit more about your business in Palma and what you do now. But you're a business owner. How long has it been now in Palma?
Just over 2 years.
Okay. So what is the best lesson that you've learned in 2 years whilst I refill my glass with sparkling water?
I'd actually say that the best lesson is probably the lesson you just mentioned about enjoying the journey and not the destination. And for a long time, I'm telling you, for a couple of years, I've been focused on the destination. You know, when I get this finished, everything else can start. And it's, you know, it just never ends. There's always something else to take care of. There's always something else to do, and you're always learning as you go at the same time. So
that's so true what you just said. I really 100% agree with that. There's always something, isn't there?
Yeah,
it never stops.
And so that's probably been, and also when you said about having that calm, that calm point when you realise that everything's just a bit too big and beyond. You know, I'm only doing things on a small scale at the moment. I just started new business, but I was completely starting from scratch in an industry. After my chefing industry, I started up the business in something I knew very little about, recruitment. I mean, what do I know about recruitment?
I'd beg to differ. I think if you've worked on yachts, you understand the concept, you understand the sort of person you're looking for, who fits into a team, who can handle being at sea, who has no privacy, who has a very, 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 very high stress job in an environment where stress is normal and has to be accepted. And it's very different from a restaurant career. You know that. Incredibly different. You can't just go, hey, can you run out and grab some bread? That doesn't happen. Yeah. It's not like that. I think having worked as a chef on yachts for so many years, you have so much knowledge that when you see a CV, you immediately know just by reading it what the strengths and weaknesses are that maybe a captain wouldn't know, or another recruiter maybe in chefs wouldn't know if they haven't worked in the trade. I mean, you've worked in restaurants, you've worked on yachts. How can you not be more savvy to who's been employed? There isn't anybody else. You've done exactly the jobs which give you the ability to choose and give people a really good chance of getting the right job.
You're actually right there. That one thing I have noticed, you can pretty much work out a chef by say reading their CV, talking to them, and getting them to send through say a week's worth of menus, and by those three things alone, you can work out where they fit into the picture, and what position they would be best suited for. You know, and other positions they just wouldn't be suited for at all. But just with those three things.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, in some respects, when I get a list of product that a chef wants delivered to a boat, I know a lot about the chef, because. Again, no judgment in the sense of corner cutting, because if you're on I spoke to a guy today. He's on a small boat. He's walked on. He's phoned me up. He's gone, this boat's tiny. I thought it'd be bigger. I said, yeah. A lot of people say that when they got on their first yacht. They go, thought it'd be bigger. He goes, there's no storage space. I said, yep. He goes, there's no working space. There's no work surface area. I said, yeah. He goes, there's nowhere to clean it. I said, yeah. He goes, have you seen my room? I went, I haven't seen yours, but I can guess how small it is. And it's a shock. Yeah. That's a shock, because you hear about super yacht industry, you go, it must be super. But for the staff, it's not necessarily super, is it? And he had a wake up. That poor bastard had a wake up yesterday when he rang me, or today. When he rang me, he just went, I can't believe what I've got myself into. I said, yeah. So do you think you'll get through it? He went, I got through training. I got through some of the best restaurants in London. I'll get through it. He says, but right now I've just realised what mountain I'm climbing. And I just said, one step at a time.
Yep. My first boat that I ever worked on was a charter boat for 5 weeks, and I slept in a cupboard. Because I was I was called up as the second chef, and there was no cabin space for me, and they had this cupboard, it's like a long, this long cupboard that was 6.5 feet long.
An actual cupboard.
Yeah,
Thought you were just taking a piss,
no,
but you weren't, are you?
It was a cupboard. It was at the top of the stairs, and they put a curtain across for me, and they said, "I'm sorry,
Crack on, mate."
But they said, "I'm sorry, but this is all we've got for you." But it was my first boat, and I was just happy for the opportunity.
Yeah.
And I was living in London, and I was making £180 a week, and they turned around, and this agency called me up and said, "We've got a job for you as a sous chef on a boat, helping out the head chef. It's for 6 weeks charter, and you'll be making $5,000 a month plus tips."
Yeah.
I was like,
You're taking a piss.
yeah, and I was
Asleep on the floor.
2 days later, I was on board the boat.
I think if you're in the yachting industry, there's a lot of hardships that people don't understand the crew go through, because you just see these huge vessels floating around and everyone's smiling, and paparazzi taking pictures of Heidi Klum in a bikini standing on the aft deck having a glass of champagne. I'm not having a go at Heidi, by the way. I think she's fantastic. I'm just saying that's what you see on the news and the TV. And then you get on a boat and you realise the kind of galley, to a degree in some boats especially, has almost been a second thought. Like, they've built the boat, they've done all the interior for the owners, everything's magic, and then someone's gone, "Oh fuck, we haven't put a kitchen in." Yeah. And then they go, "Well, just make a little space there." Also, on some of the smaller boats especially, the crew areas are very small, very, very difficult to have any kind of privacy. You are paying for your wage, your higher wage, in other ways, if that makes sense. And I've heard people criticise the wages that crew get, but most people go home at the end of the day. They can go to the pub and sit and have a cigarette and a pint and go, hard day. They can go out with their family or a friend on a Sunday and have a walk, and freedom to do as they please. You can't do that on a boat. It can be weeks at sea, not getting off, especially if they're at anchor, even if there's nobody on the boat. It's very, very, very tough. And they always talk about mental health. I think we probably talk about it a bit too much these days. But you have to have an incredibly thick skin, which is why the chefs usually shine quite well, because they've already got thick skin. Yeah. It's the one skill set that they've already got in that environment, which a lot of other people don't. They walk onto a yacht, they've got quite thin skin, and they get beaten up because of it. Whereas if you've got thick skin, you can handle all the shit, you can handle all the crap, you can handle the change, you can handle the squalid conditions of the small areas, you can handle the no freedom, no privacy. You can deal with it because you've got thick skin. And I think chefs almost have a leg up on everyone else in that environment because they're already prepared for a nightmare.
Yeah, I'd say that. And also that, to a large extent, my experience being on boats has been that you're left pretty much to your own devices. I mean, if the crew's happy and the owners are happy, there's almost no interference from the captain, and if the crew are happy, you can sort of create your own hours, work your own hours. If everybody's happy, no one's going to kick up a fuss.
Yeah.
So,
and I think that's a skill forgotten by a lot of people these days, is if you do a good job, you can get away with anything. I mean, within reason, obviously. Normal stuff. People give you a very long rope if everyone's happy around you because of the job you're doing. That's the same as me as a business owner. And if you've got staff and they're fantastic, they're always going to make some errors, but you're okay with it because they're great to have around and they could do a good job. It's not the same sometimes for the people who would do the same thing that's not right, but also let you down in other areas. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's a natural instinct to feel that way, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, do you have that, now that you've taken on this bigger project, I mean, do you sort of have that now with...
Don't sleep at night.
Do you sleep at night?
No, I got up at 5:45 this morning. having had a sweaty nightmare about everything. And again, I'm not complaining about my life. I'm just saying that there's a lot of pressures. I've got a lot of staff who I have to pay at the end of every month. A lot of taxes to pay because I've got a lot of staff and I'm in France. This place has got to be paid for, which is huge. The electricity bill, you know, it goes on. And some nights I can't sleep when I go to bed. And some nights I can't sleep after I've got to sleep or wake up quite quickly. It's not because I'm necessarily worrying. It's because it is a huge amount of pressure. And I think a lot, again, I'm making judgments here. Some businesses in this industry made a very good choice early on, and that was to have a partner in the business. I'm unlucky enough that I didn't make that correct decision to have a business partner, 50-50 or anything.
Was there an opportunity
No.
there for you to your decision was
But I didn't
made.
look. And that's another thing I'd say. If I opened another business, I wouldn't necessarily be the only person. I'd want to have it with somebody else in some way, because it's you on your own with your dark thoughts when everyone's gone home. And here, especially, I like to be in the building. I've just built it. It costs a lot of money. If I could live in it, I would.
It's comfortable enough.
It is, you know. There's a couch with a bed on it, because I kind of figured I'm probably going to sleep here some nights if it's busy, or when it gets busy. When it's very busy, I just sleep. If I'm here at 10 o'clock at night, I'll just sleep.
How far do you live away?
It's not cheap, so it's 20, 25 minutes.
Okay.
But it's the fact that if I need to be here at 6 in the morning, I can just sleep, get back up, and carry on, have a coffee, rock into it. You know what I mean?
Is it then, when you said about like having sleepless nights, is it to do with more just the volume of work that you have to get through? I mean, me coming here today, and you said you had, is it 70?
128 messages a minute ago. Yeah. And 200 emails.
Yeah. I mean, and you didn't, since I've arrived, you haven't stopped.
No, it's constant, 24 hours a day. And my philosophy has always been, make sure the client's happy and the money will flow. If they're not happy, it won't. We've made errors. We've got new people in the team who've made errors. I'm trying to make sure I catch the errors they make before they become serious. In some cases, they become serious before I catch them, because I physically cannot see and do everything. And I'm, at this point, I'd say I'm learning a very valuable lesson, which is, in fact, I don't know what the lesson is. That's how far away I am from finding out the solution.
You haven't learned it yet, but you're on your way.
I know there's a lesson here. I haven't learned it. I don't even know what the problem is yet. I'm learning each day, and I'm just trying. I feel like I'm in the sea, and each day somebody puts another weight on top of me, and I'm just treading water, and another weight's added. And every time that happens, the people who are adding the weights don't realise they're adding the weights, and they don't understand that one more eventually and I'll drown, if that makes sense. And I've had that before in the business, which was the hardest time, basically. And I talk about these things openly because I don't want sympathy. That's not why I would tell these things. It's basically because I need to warn other people that they need to be more aware of what's going on around them, because it's so easy for things to get out of control before you even know, because you're busy working, you're just looking after your clients, trying to do the best you can. And 2019 was when it really, just before COVID actually, incredible story, really. Been in the industry years, working away, travelling around the south of France in a van with my phone, doing the orders, delivering the orders, getting home, doing the invoicing. And I knew I was struggling. I knew I was having a hard time as it was growing. I had a driver who would help me out when he was available, but I was drowning. I heard a advert on the radio, Riviera Radio, advertising accountancy company who can help you with business stuff, and they knew the system and they're French and they speak English and everything. And I heard it and I went, fucking great idea. Give them a bell. Probably the worst phone call I've ever made in my life.
way?
Well, she wasn't an accountant. She was a fraudster.
Oh, okay.
And, some people listening to this might... it's an important story to tell, and I haven't told it. Basically, to cut a long story short, because I don't want to go into it, that when the movie comes out on Netflix, you can watch it. But basically, I had everything stolen by an accountant who was claiming to be taking the money out of the bank account to pay the tax people. And it wasn't. She was just taking the money and not paying the tax people. So I had everything stolen and found out in 2019, just at the start of the season, as I was off to Barcelona to do the Amoeba. And yeah, it was a very difficult year. And at 2 points during that year, I was about an hour away from closing the business down twice. And as the only person in the business, that's it's very difficult to deal with that. And the phone's ringing for people saying, can I have an order? Can you do this? Can you do that? So I was trying to deal with a business ending situation, which wasn't going to go away because I owed all that money she'd stolen to the tax people, and they wanted it back.
Did they catch her, or what happened to her?
It's an ongoing situation. But it's still going on for me now, even all these years later. 5 years later, I'm still dealing with it. I had a document come through to me the other day of 4,562 pages from the lawyer, and people phone you up and say, have you got any scallops? And of course, why would they
trying to get your own, unpack that?
Yeah.
Somebody,
do you know what I mean? Or they phone you up and say, we've got 3 of your crates here, can you send a driver? Or where's my Toblerones? And you just got off with the phone with the lawyer who's just explaining to you how the case is going or whatever it might be that's happening. And it's soul destroying because you've got to pretend it's not happening, because you can't allow your business to cease and exist. So I worked very hard in 2019, and because of that, lost everything else in my life.
When you say lost everything else, as in? I don't want to press you on this. So.
No, it's relationships, all sorts.
Yes. Well, I more or less had a similar thing happen with me. That was going back. We sort of briefly touched on it earlier. I've got 2 court cases at the moment, and one for a person who owes me a large amount of money and then they sort of took it through fraud. I said to you about lessons, and I look back now and I made a foolish decision, a careless decision, and as a result, and maybe in some ways I deserve to have this person to relieve me of this money, and she spent some time in jail, and I think at the moment it's still in criminal proceedings. But that's 10 years. That's been going on 10 years, and it takes something out of you. I can feel that. And then there was another court case that I got involved with, and I briefly touched on that one with you as well, about the property deal gone bad, and the worst thing about that was I had friends involved that don't live here, that live in Australia and live in Singapore, and it went bad in all sorts of ways, and almost in a comical way, that it went so bad, and that's even now that's in criminal proceedings, and that's probably been 8 years, and that's the Spanish system. It'll take forever, but it takes something out of you, and I've changed as a result. I know I have, and maybe those are lessons that I needed to learn. But also, having said that, though, I'm not the same person that I was even 3 years ago, 4 years ago.
Yeah, I get that 100%. It changes you. without question.
Well, I was disappointed with the property deal that friends were involved, and it was the first time in my life that I felt like I'd failed at something. I had a great career, working as a chef, and went from strength to strength. And then I got to a point, and it was a serious thing. It wasn't anything trivial. There's a large amount of money involved, and it went sour. And I felt responsible. I was responsible for it, even though just about all the things that happened were beyond my control, and I had no knowledge of them. But I still felt responsible for them. I was the person who had to answer to my friends.
Yeah.
And then I was lucky that one of them was quite understanding. The other, actually, two of them were quite understanding. One of them wasn't. So like I was saying about, it's the first time I failed in a big way, and maybe there's a part of you that never recovers from that, and maybe you shouldn't recover from that too. Maybe you sort of should. Maybe that should always be in the back of your mind.
I think it is. I think now it's definitely in the back of my mind. I mean, I'm so much more careful about things like that. Obviously, you only learn the lessons when you learn the lessons. You can't learn the lesson if you don't know there's a lesson to be learned.
There's no shortcuts and there's no easy way.
I learned the lesson that day. Definitely felt like I'd completely failed everything. Didn't know whether I could continue. Moved into 2020, had a complete breakdown at the end of the season. Complete and utter meltdown. Couldn't do anything. I was at the end. That's the end of the business. I'm done. I can't continue. And then COVID kicked in.
Great.
And at that point with COVID coming, I mean, I was at the lowest I've probably ever been in my life. And then COVID arrived, and I'll be honest with you, COVID saved me.
Okay.
There's not many people that can tell you that, I don't think. But I got saved by COVID basically because I didn't need 15 staff, because I didn't have work for 15 people. When a client's order came through, because so much stuff wasn't available, they'd say to me, "Can I have pork chops?" And I go, "I haven't got any pork chops. Would you like lamb?" They'll go, "Fuck it, lamb's fine." Because people were so much more willing to accept that things weren't available last minute, which meant 2020 was an easier season because people went, as long as I get some food. Because it was so scarce, especially, not scarce, but you know what I mean, more difficult to get stuff. Farmers had shut down, all sorts of things. They'd stopped inseminating cattle, for God's sake, So you just couldn't get stuff. A lot of the products on the shelves had gone. Those particular flavoured crisps that the boss likes, they're not in production anymore.
What?
So
how outrageous.
And people were cool about it. People just went, "Mate, I just need some crisps when he's here. No problem." We queue at supermarkets. It'd be one in, one out. So you couldn't be quick. So they'd say, "When can you get it to me?" And I'd go, "Well, it's going to be Tuesday." "No problem. Thank you for helping." You felt like you were one of the armed service. People would say, "Thank you for your service." Because we were out there with masks on, out in the danger zone, and as a small team. And I managed to keep going. And if it hadn't been for COVID, I wouldn't have.
That's incredible, hey?
Wouldn't have done it.
Wow.
And then I went at the end of that season. Was it 2020? I think at the end of 2020, all sorts of awful things happened in my private life, and then I went to therapy. Basically, I needed to talk to somebody about all of it, because it affects you as a person when that shit happens. And not COVID. I mean, the other stuff affects you. If you've had a bad business deal and all that kind of stuff we're talking about happens, it deeply affects you as a person and changes your personality if you're not strong enough to deal with it. I'm not Donald Trump. I can't have 42 cases against me and we walk down the street and go, "Don't care." I get affected by everything. If a staff member's not happy about something, I get affected by it. If a client complains about something, I'm affected by it. And if I get completely fucked by somebody I thought was doing me a favour and helping me out as an accountant, I'm affected by it. And I was a different person through 2019 and 20 because I was just surviving. And it's, if you're just surviving, you don't have anything left to give other people in your life. You don't have anything for your relationships and your family, and nothing. You have nothing left. And they can't really 100% appreciate it. Again, no fault of their own.
Maybe you're barely holding on yourself.
And they don't realise that you're grasping with the thinnest straw, and you're holding on to it, and you're just praying that there is no gust of wind, because if there is, you're done. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you're maybe trying to keep a persona.
Yeah, so you have this outside persona that you're strong and you can handle it, and nobody really knows how incredibly weak and vulnerable you are. And holding that persona for so long is just going to destroy relationships. And also, you just don't see stuff around you because you have one goal. My goal in 2020 was to survive. Personally, like inside, but the business, I'd just gone through a ridiculous situation, which is my own fault because it's not my own fault. There's a lot of people to blame, but I'm looking at it now as my own fault because it's a lesson to be learned. I needed to learn certain things in life, and it definitely wasn't my fault, but I have to blame myself because I can't blame anybody else. If you have a relationship breakdown, you can't blame them.
But
You've got to look at yourself.
Sort of like taking responsibility.
Taking responsibility. That's what it is, exactly. It's taking responsibility. So I took responsibility, had therapy, got into therapy.
And how long was it? How long was therapy?
2 years.
Okay, well.
And I got to that point in therapy where I didn't want to stop therapy. I go once a week, and I even said at one point, I remember saying to her, I don't think I could ever imagine a life where I don't see you once a week. Not in a sexual way. Basically, just I felt comfortable in that environment once a week, or once every 2 weeks, or whatever it might have been at the time, because it changed. But it felt so comfortable to know that I could walk into a room and be me for an hour, because you can't be out there. You can't do that. You can't walk into your office and be yourself, because if you were, everybody would tell you to fuck off. Because it's a very difficult environment to be in yachting anyway. Any business owner can have a hard time. So you have to fight every day, and you have to try and be a nice person. You have to try and be pleasant.
Well, you've got to be very diplomatic, that's for sure.
Very diplomatic when you are at your weakest. It's very hard. You know that. So, 2020 was a year of eyes closed and pointing towards one goal, which was surviving and not wasting all those years I'd worked hard and ruining my reputation in the business, basically because of anything that happened. So it was a hard year, and I think I'm still scarred by the entire thing, 100%. But what can you do? You can't turn the clock back. You can't change the past. You can't move into the future quicker so it becomes a distance. Every day just moves forward, and you have to crack on.
Well, yeah. I mean,
that's it, isn't it?
I mean, that's it's pretty sound advice, but that's not the only advice there is, isn't it? So.
Yeah. I mean, I look back on the years I've done this, and if somebody said to me, "Would you do it again?" No. Absolutely not. If you took me back to the day I decided to do this and said you're going to do it with this knowledge now, I go, you're absolutely crazy. People phoning me at 3 a.m. to say, "Can I have an extra kilo of carrots, please?" No, not interested.
But I don't know. I think there would have been something in you that would have said, like, "Fuck it anyway. I'm gonna," because I see as you get sort of older in life, but I look at people at their capacity. Everybody has a certain capacity, and some people have less capacity than others, and other people move on and do great things in life because they have enormous capacity. And if I look at myself as well as, and you can take that, and when you apply it to people, when you look at them, there's something that drives us, and say you as a younger person taking on new responsibilities, and there's something in you that you can't be anything else but that.
Yeah.
If you know, when you talk about years ago about not doing the business, if you hadn't done the business, you would have been pushing yourself in something else. You would have been stretching the boundaries in somewhere else.
I remember years ago, I used to do ski seasons and did all sorts of stuff. And I remember one ski season, I decided to go out, rent an apartment with some of my friends who I'd met there from previous seasons. And I wasn't going to work very much. I was going to try and bum it for a ski season, do the odd job here and there. I'd always got responsible jobs. Wherever I'd gone, I'd always ended up in some sort of role of responsibility because I can't fucking help it for some reason. And I remember this season I got there and I just got a part-time job in a ski shop helping out. And by New Year's Day, so 3 weeks into the job, I was running a ski shop. The owner had given me one of his shops to run and give me the keys and said, crack on. And all my mates were just taking the piss out of me, going, you can't fucking help it, can you? And I didn't even try for that to happen. I just went to work, did my job, I did my hours, went out with the lads, had fun, skied. And all of a sudden, I've got the keys to a Sport 2000 and I'm running a ski shop in the Alps.
I guess it goes back to our earlier conversation when we said about people. You see something in people, and there's obviously this guy saw something in you.
Yeah.
I thought, right, okay, this is the right man.
Or maybe he was on crack.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's the second time it's happened, but maybe they're both on crack. But you know, he saw something in you. I thought, right, you know, this is the guy, you know, that I want to run the ski shop.
Yeah.
And by the sounds of it, you did all right.
We did great. It went very well. We used to have fun time. I employed a couple of guys I knew. We ran the shop with fun and humour. The customers came in, had a great time. We had a great time. The owner made some money. Everybody was happy, to be honest with you. So it did actually go very well and it was fun. But it's just, like you said, you know, you're right in the sense of if I wasn't doing this, I'd have done something else and I'd be in probably the same position. Yeah. Made the same errors, used judgment where I thought it was correct when it may have been a bad idea in retrospect. I mean, you can't know these things. You know, so you're gonna make mistakes in business as you go, and every day I try and make less. But I wake up expecting to make mistakes.
Yeah, I've made loads of mistakes. There's like the first 2 years of the business has just been about making mistakes.
Oh, really?
And really,
what's the biggest lesson you've had and the worst mistake you made? Let's give something for people to laugh about. Like they've already had a laugh at me. Let's hear it.
I'd say, yeah, say 2 years of just stumbling. I've entered into something. I guess we touched on it when you said about the recruitment, and your reply was that I knew more about what I was doing than I gave myself credit.
100%.
And yeah, you're right, but there were certainly aspects of the business that I knew almost nothing about. So that's been a big learning curve, and it's been you don't know what you don't know, and there's nobody to tell you what you don't know. So you've got to find these things out for yourself.
There's no phone a friend or 50-50, is there?
That's it.
Yeah. And you know, sometimes you ask people, and they're either unwilling to give you information, or as they're speaking, you know they're talking bullshit. You don't know why, but you just like, this is not the right advice.
Yeah, it's funny, and you can pick up on that too. And you're listening to people and giving you the wrong advice, or just giving you bad advice.
Yeah.
So that probably the biggest learning curve for me has been how little I knew about the business and the learning curve associated with it. Would I have taken it on just over 2 years ago if I knew what would sort of lay ahead of me? And yes. I mean, I was ready for it.
Yeah.
I'd finished on yachting. Yachting had run its course. I'd had a fantastic time. You know, I financially did very well out of it, but there was nothing left to extract from it.
Yeah.
You know, and my working career there, I was lucky with the boats that I worked on, the crew that I worked on, the captains, the owners. I mean, incredibly fortunate beyond measure, really, when I consider that to what people that I know that have the lives that other people have that I know. You know, I look at their lives and I think man, I have had so many opportunities in life just that they would not even dream of.
Yeah.
You know, oh, well, what are you going to do? I've got some time off. I'll fly to Bali, business class, you know, to go there for a week. And then I'll fly back and I'll join the boat.
Yeah.
Those sort of silly things, really. But yeah, so I would have taken on the business, and I knew I wanted to. 2.5 years ago, I knew I wanted to start something new and start something difficult, and that's exactly what I've done. and that's come back to haunt me.
And how difficult is yacht recruitment for chefs these days?
It's competitive.
A lot of companies out there, is there?
Yeah, there is, but my argument is that I'm supplying a service that, given my history, you know, I have 38 years of being a chef, 22 years of working in villas and yachts as well, large yachts.
It's your sell point.
Well, yeah,
Isn't it? A lot of other people don't have that.
And that, and also too, when I said to you about the 3 points of, you know, when I look at a chef's CV, I can talk to them, and I can look at say a week's worth of menus, and I can sort of gauge where they are.
But you also know the point of view from the captain as well, because you've been in that world for so long. It's a perfect synergy of everything, really. I mean, I know a lot of crew agencies out there, and they play chefs. None of them ever worked on a boat, or they were maybe a stewardess, chief stewardess, whatever it may have been. It's not the same. It doesn't mean you can understand chefs. And I have the same argument about selling food. Just because you decided to move to the south of France, buy a provisioning company, start a provisioning company and sell food because you used to eat in 3-star Michelin restaurants in Paris or London or Rome, doesn't mean you have a fucking clue what you're talking about. So don't pretend you do. Let's be honest. If you've worked with food and you've worked in kitchens, you understand ingredients, produce, time scale, everything. I don't need to have worked on a yacht to know that's going to be twice as bad on a yacht. I know what a kitchen's like. I'm not qualified. I'm not certified. Nobody's stamped my papers, but I've worked in enough kitchens for enough years to know the produce. And the big difference is I'm constantly learning new shit, and I'm constantly trying to find new stuff. I haven't shown you, but I'll show you the vanilla in a bit. I'm constantly wanting to find the next and most amazing produce, because I want the chefs who work with us to go, holy shit, that was amazing. Because that's like personal satisfaction. When you place a chef on a boat and you get a message back from the management company or the captain or whatever it may be saying this guy's a fucking rock star, that personally feels great, doesn't it?
It gives you a buzz.
Of course it does. It gives you great buzz. It's like some people post on Instagram, get follows and likes, that gives them a buzz. I get a buzz off a chef phoning me, having an honest conversation, saying, look, that was not quite the product I was looking for, but holy shit, I tell you what, fruit and veg is beautiful, man. Checked, it's ripe, it's perfect for the trip. You know, or after the trip, a chef phones me and says, trip's over, I've sent you your invoice through. Always like to hear that. And, you know, and then they go, clients absolutely loved this and this and this, and I saw that product you sent me was amazing. That to me is why I do it. Any money you might earn is a bonus to that, because that's part of what I want to hear. I've always been very proud in what I do, whether I've worked for somebody else or working for myself. And what I detest in people is when they're not proud of what they do. They half-arse it. They've got their shoulders down. They drudge through life. They don't show any passion. And they complain continuously about, oh, I didn't know. No, self-educate. Google. Nobody can claim they can't find out about 4 different types of vanillas. Nobody can claim they can't find out about Wagyu beef, where it's produced, whether it's certified halal, if it drinks beer, if it's massaged, whatever it may be. Nobody can ever fucking sit there and tell me they don't know, because you can Google it and find out in a minute. You can watch videos on YouTube. You can watch podcasts about it. I mean, I've got a TikTok account of this butcher in America. It's fantastic, man. It's fucking amazing. I follow this guy. He's got these huge bits of cow. He just pulls them on. He goes, I'm going to cut a particular cut now. And he shows you exactly where it comes from and what it's like. And it's fantastic. Anybody who tells you they can't learn these days, they're just lazy. They're lazy and they're given up. And what they really want is someone else to do it for them. And I don't like that. I find it offensive, because I've had to learn everything over years to be able to do my job. And other people turn to me and go, yeah, but you've got experience. Well, yeah,
How do you
But I
get
put a lot of
experience?
effort into getting
Yeah,
experience. It
that's-
doesn't just
that's how you
land
get
on
it.
my fucking table and someone go, here's a bucket of experience. That took years because a lot of people have done very similar stuff to me and don't know anything.
But it also has to be, experience has to be the intelligent extraction of information.
Yeah.
I mean, you can get lots of bad. I know you work somewhere and you can pick up a lot of bad habits.
100%.
And that's like, you've got all these bad experiences and you've consolidated those into your personality. No, you got to be smart about what you do.
Yeah.
And what you absorb information from. But I mean, when I was working on the last boat, last 80-meter, and our experience, or my experience when I was chef on there, of working with you, was that, and the reason that we used you time and time again, was that you were on it. It could ring you up or send you a message, and you'd reply instantly or very quickly.
But that's what you need.
And
That's what it takes.
yeah. And you knew your stuff, and you were you were hungry,
Yeah.
and you would go the extra mile, and that's the difference. You would go the extra mile, and not everybody is prepared to do that.
Well, a lot of people have got families or kids and other commitments. I don't have children, and I think that's a big thing. I'd have to say for provisions out there with young kids, I feel fucking sorry for them because I know what it's like in the summer. It's very difficult because you get up early, you go to bed late. I mean, last night I went to bed late because I got into bed and for some reason went, I need to check that list. So I lay in bed and I went, no. I knew when I lay down, by the way, before I got into bed.
But it's amazing, that little voice in the back of your head.
Yeah, I heard the little voice go, get up, go and check the list. So I went back, put the computer on, sat down, 20 minutes, went through it all, felt confident, and went, okay, I can go to bed. But by then my brain had already started working, so it was an hour before I could sleep. And then I woke up early worried about stuff, literally. So I was like, okay, 5:45. But if I'd had kids waking me up at 3 o'clock in the morning screaming, well, I'd have had a nervous breakdown by now. I couldn't have done it. So I do wonder how those people with children who are in provisioning, how the hell they do it. I got a lot of respect for them. I mean, I think provisioning is hard. I know yachting's hard, by the way, in as a whole. I think anybody who's in yachting who has their own business and has children, it's almost like they've gone, right, I'm going to get a piece of paper out. What's the 3 worst things I could do?
To myself.
Work in yachting, get my own business, have children at the same time. Rock and roll. Here we go. Because it's hard. I can't imagine how they do it.
Recipe for divorce.
Yeah, I mean, how much pressure does that put on a relationship when you're constantly working, and even when you're not, you are. You know?
I guess it's
Hard. Don't know how people do it.
I guess it's a bit like the old farmer who's never comfortable away from the farm.
Yeah.
You always got to be on. I mean,
Yeah.
I find that now with the business. I'm awake at 4 o'clock in the morning because I've got an idea about something, or something's bothering me, or maybe it's something that I haven't attended to, or maybe I think I have but I haven't, and so I've got. It's a different pressure.
Yeah. Because if you're just employed, you go to work, you do your job, you leave. If you get on the train home or in a car home and you think, oh, I'll do that tomorrow, don't you?
Well,
You don't go, I'll do it now. Whereas if you're a business owner, you go, I'll do that now because tomorrow morning there's going to be 10 more things to do, so I have to do it now. Otherwise, I can't get through tomorrow. And that's why you get up at 12 to go and put your computer on to check a list that you've already checked 3 times, because you definitely don't want that chef losing his job.
Yeah.
You don't want that chef phoning me today saying, well, you fucked that up, didn't you, mate? I don't want that to happen. Personal pride doesn't want that to happen. Forget everything else. So you have to get out of bed and do it. Like we're both in here now. I would presume by the time we come out of here, there'll be a lot of messages. There'll be a few people out there going, how comes Damian's not replying? I should have given my phone to Ben, but I didn't think of that.
It's been
Another
at least
lesson
20 minutes and he hasn't replied. What's going on?
We've been an hour and 25 minutes. It'll be 150 messages now. So, but for you, you know that maybe you've missed a call, and if you phone them, when you phone them back after we've finished and here, they may say to you, "Oh, I've already got somebody on that." Do you know what I mean? And for a boat phoning me, if I don't pick the phone up, if they need an emergency, it's something that needs to be done very quickly. they'll go, well, he's not answered, I'll phone somebody else. They phone somebody else, that person does pick up. They get the product to them by 6 o'clock tonight. That client stays with them for the season. So it's not about missing out on selling a kilo of carrots. It's about missing out on a boat for the entire summer because you didn't take a call, because you were lying in the jacuzzi.
I guess maybe is it a double-edged sword there? Because, like you say, not having the family, in other areas you're much more responsive to to what people want. I mean, I know from myself, because I don't have the responsibility of I don't have children, and I'm not married, that I can pretty much work 7 days a week, any hours that I want. I can work 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. So, and there's a lot of other agencies who don't have that commitment or flexibility. Saturday, Sunday, they're all parked up and they're at home.
Done.
So,
yeah. And that's the same in provisions to a degree. Not all of them, but some of them over the years have, I've had clients phone me up on the weekend and say, well, I use a different provision about than answering the call. I haven't answered since Friday at 6. And of course, Saturdays and Sundays that, owners of boats and clients on charters don't say, oh, it's the weekend. Oh, fine, don't bother getting me the sea bus then. I'll have it Tuesday. It doesn't happen. If the boat you were on, the owner phones up on Saturday morning to the captain and says, I'll be there at 1, you'd be on the phone to me to say, mate, I need a rush.
At about
bits and pieces, please.
At 1 minute past 1.
Yeah, at 12:59 we arrive. You bang it on the boat, run in and pretend everything's cool. And basically that's what you need. You don't need to phone somebody and say, sorry, it's Saturday. Saturday's a work day. Sunday, yeah, my supplier's not open. I can be honest about it. But in reality, you still want a solution. The solution's not fuck all, is it?
But at least you're working on it. They know.
Yeah.
They know somebody's on it.
Well, that's something I was going to ask you. So this is the theory I have, and I try and tell all the staff, start of the season especially. I try and explain to them how it works, because I think it's difficult if you've not been in the industry. But I always say to them, a message comes through on a group. So we have a lot of WhatsApp groups with our clients now. So we'll have the name of the boat, Riviera Gourmet. I'll have all my management on there, which means they should put the message on there, because I might not always be able to reply quickly, and as the business has grown, that's even more so the case. So we have WhatsApp groups for the boat. I used to just have me. I can't do it anymore. But I always say to them, within a minute, with 5 people sitting in the office, somebody should have been able to reply to that with a great. And the reason being is really simple. If you're chief stewardess on a boat and the owner's on and he says, have you got that Class Azul Ultra Tequila? She'll go, I'll go and have a look. She comes back, she says, I haven't got any. He goes, well, can you get some for tomorrow night? Because I've got Alan on. He loves that. No problem. If she texts me, because I'm the supplier, and I don't reply for an hour, she cannot relax at all, because she knows she has to have it for tomorrow night. Whereas if I reply immediately and say, I'll get back to you in 5 minutes with a price and availability, she knows she's got 5 minutes. She'll get the price. I'll confirm it's available. She can then go to the owner and say, look, usually it's ordered in, but we do have somebody locally with a bottle. It's a little bit more expensive. It's this price. Is that cool? If he goes, yeah, just get it. No problem. She'll text back and say, great, I'll have it tomorrow, please. Job's done. She's got a best man on the job. She now knows she's got to deal with the other shit on the boat that she's dealing with. That text and getting a reply quickly and an answer means that she can get on with the other 400 jobs that she has on, which is looking after clients, making sure the other stewardesses are on the ball, making sure that they've got all the provisions they need, or everything's organised and clean and the bathrooms have been done, and she'll go and do a check. And it's the same in the galley. If you text me as a chef, can you get this? It's not because you woke up on a Tuesday and went, fuck it, let's make his life really hard. You woke up because it's a request from somebody, especially in the season, that needs to be dealt with. And the sooner you get a response, the easier your life is. And you're supposed to use a provisioner to make your life better, not to make it harder.
And true, and at least then if you respond straight away too, at least the chef or the stewardess involved, if he doesn't get a response from you within 10 or 15 minutes,
I've probably died.
Or thrown overboard. Is not making other arrangements.
Yeah.
That's all of a sudden a priority.
Yeah,
I mean, I know from being on boats that you get a guest request and that goes to the top of the list, and you put all your focus into that. So already you're making. I haven't heard from Damian what's plan B?
Yeah.
You know, so you're
And that's it. That's my question, is that's what you're thinking.
Yeah.
If you get a response in 30 seconds with them on it,
Yeah.
you go, great.
done.
I've got to do the cake. I've got to do the crew dinner now, so I'll get that crack in.
Yeah.
Damian's dealing with it, or whoever. That is a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
With no return message, no information, is that's in the back of your mind as a stressful thing that needs to be dealt with, and it's simmering. And it's getting hotter and hotter as the time goes by.
Yeah.
And you're starting to think, eventually you get to 7 o'clock at night and you go, I'm going to have to call the bastard. But you don't want that.
Yeah.
Ideally, you just want a response, so you know somebody's dealing with it. And I think I got a response from, there was a silly web application, AI, bullshit AI thing. It's not, it's just a clever search program. But anyway, and this was something I noticed the other day. I went on, signed up for an account. It said 7 days free trial. So I signed up for an account because I thought it'd be quite cool to see how that works. Immediately it said put your credit card details in. Well, I don't give scammers on the internet my credit cards. There's not a fucking chance in a million years I'm putting my credit card details in so I can forget because I'm busy, and in 7 days they charge me €59. Ain't happening. Okay, if you want me to test it, let me test it. If you don't want me to test it, don't let me test it. But don't pretend you want me to test it so you can scam me out of €59 next month. That's my opinion anyway. So I don't put my credit card details in. I close the website down. Not even going to test it. Lost a sale, haven't they? I mean, I forgot about it. Go back to my email a few minutes later. Like 12 emails from this company. First email was, thank you for joining us, because I had to put an email address in even to get to that page. Next thing, email comes through, 10% offer if you buy in the next hour, with the clock ticking. Next email, we notice you haven't gone through and paid yet. Next email is, you're only 15 minutes away from being, you know, fucking legend. Next email, next morning I wake up, I'm like, oh my God, these people have just lost their mind, you know? And they're all set in a program to send. Nobody's doing it. He's asleep on his yacht. So, I'm actually set. The reason I can't pay it, mate, is 'cause I've got to get your order ready. You know what I mean? So the next thing, in the morning I wake up, there's an email. One from the founder. So I opened it and went, this will be interesting. Automated email from the founder, which is an absolute disgrace that somebody in 2024 thinks, as a founder, they can not only have their email address in, the name of the guy, but then it says, but reply to, contact at. This chump thinks I'm stupid enough to think he's singled me out. Is that how stupid people are these days? They think that because he says, I'm the owner and I just noticed, so I thought I'd get in touch with you personally. It's this bullshit email. There's no personality about it. It's all, the guy's a goddamn liar. The whole company's a scam. I went on Trustpilot. Everybody's saying, yeah, you put your card details in, you can't seem to cancel. 7 days later, they take your money. One guy went on about, they've been taking money for a year. I've spent $529 with these clowns. And it goes on and on and on. And I'm like, I can't remember the point of telling you, but it's almost like that automated response. You know, like the new business WhatsApp. Yeah. If you turn your number and go, I'll turn it into a business account. As soon as somebody replies, it goes, hi, I've got your message. Thank you for sending us a message. It's like, no, people don't want that. That's bullshit. It's lies. People don't want an automated message. You in a galley who says, I need frog's legs by 7, you text me and you get, hi, we've seen it, your message. Your message is important to us. We'll get back to you as soon as possible.
Thanks for contacting us.
You immediately know that's bullshit.
Yeah.
Auto responses when you order something doesn't impress you, does it? Because you know it's an automated response. Therefore, you know no one cares.
And you get bored of it too.
And it's just spam, bam, bam, email after email. And so somebody said, you should turn your phone into a business account. I don't know. That takes away the whole point of what we do. This is a personal service. It's bespoke, really. Same as what you're doing. And if your phone was set up to send a message back every time somebody texts you with, you're important to us, they would be so tired of it. They would go, I'm not dealing with this guy. They wouldn't do it, would they?
No. Well, no, you're right there.
And that's where the yachting industry, but high end, differs from other industries. You know, it's so incredibly bespoke. It's not just the product. It's not just the service. It's not just the price. It's the whole package has to be bespoke. Otherwise, you know, every delivery we do is done in a different way. They'll use our crates. They'll use their crates. They'll decant it into their own crates. They'll give me their crates and say, only delivering these. You know, they'll want everything inside out. I mean, who knows what it could be. I remember COVID, one boat wanted everything delivered in poly boxes, sprayed. When the poly boxes come out of the van, which is a huge amount of poly boxes because you can only fit so much in a poly box, They then sprayed all of them out on the deck and then took them into the galley and opened them. And I was like, I don't know what you're trying to achieve by having... It just didn't make any sense. And then opening it and taking everything out. I mean, in the shelves, somebody's put that on the shelf. In the shops, people were not wearing gloves. Now, when I shopped, I did, because I was paranoid, because we'd been watching the news and we were taught to be paranoid. But all the people in the shops weren't wearing gloves. They were just banging stuff on the shelves.
There's a lot of things about COVID that didn't make sense.
It was funny, though. What was Palma? Were you in Palma then?
I was lucky, because I managed to almost miss the lockdowns, because at the time I was working 10 weeks on, 10 weeks off on rotation, and I would so I'd finish on the boat, go back to Palma, and then I'd head off travelling, or I'd head off to Australia, which wasn't in lockdown.
Yeah.
So
was it not?
No.
Why not?
At this stage, this is sort of early COVID, when Europe.
We talking what, March 2020?
I don't remember.
We went to lockdown 17th of March.
So this must have been
first time.
Yeah. So this would have been. Australia didn't lock down for maybe a year. Maybe it was a year after, sort of, or certainly 8 months after COVID. Then they started to have the serious lockdowns. So during that period of time, I'd go back to Australia, which was, was just hanging out as normal.
Down the beach.
Yeah, and barbecues. And then I'd come back here to Europe, and then pretty much back to the boat. And then when I'd get time off again, back to Australia, and then back here again. And then Australia started to lock down, and they like serious lockdowns. So I just stayed here in Europe. And by that stage, Europe was coming out of lockdown.
Yeah.
But it was just like all these people in. All these people who never had power before suddenly had all this power.
Yeah.
Like you walk into the supermarket. I remember walking into a Roski supermarket in Palma, and I forgot to sanitise my hand, and I had someone chase after me around the supermarket. This woman chased after me around the supermarket, saying, "Senor, go back and sanitise your hands."
It was mental, wasn't it? I mean, it was a completely mental time. I look back on it now, and it feels like a distant memory, really. Yeah. But 2020, when they did the lockdown in March, wow, what a strange world we lived in.
Yeah,
right there and then.
Actually, there's something you said earlier on too, and it was about something to do with fear. And I remember being in Palma, and I've got an apartment it's in an area called Santa Catalina. It's like an old fisherman's village. And it's a great place, lots of sort of bars and restaurants and cafes, and it's got a beautiful old central market. They sell everything there: fruit, veg, fish, cheeses, bread. And I mean, woke up in the morning, had coffee, had breakfast, had coffee, sort of wandered down to the market, and this was the day that this was very early COVID, and it's the first time I'd ever noticed it. And I thought I was being a bit naive at the time, because I came into the market, and there was a different ambience, and I could feel it. It was fear.
Oh, really?
Nobody was talking, and everyone was buying up everything. I went to the butcher, and like half the meat's already gone. It's 10 o'clock in the morning. And you go into the fish counter, and half the fish is gone. And
do you know, it's funny, yeah, I noticed people wouldn't have eye contact. It's almost like people thought they could catch COVID with eye contact, because in the supermarket, we were there every day. Of course, that's the March, end of March. April we were very busy, because no boat would let their staff off the yachts, and they needed crew food. So usually in April, you're not doing crew food. They go shopping, don't they? They've got time. Get yourself to the shops, you lazy fucker. And so they'll go off and do that, and the captain will be like, I'm not paying for provisioners. They pay for that in the season when they're busy and there's no time. But that stopped. So all these boats, we were going to La Ciotat 3 times a week with 2 vans to go and deliver to boats that were too concerned. They didn't want to send the crew out. And so, but I was literally get up in the morning, Paul worked for me at the time, fantastic Dutch guy, really lovely guy. He just started as well, the poor bastard. He literally started the day lockdown came in. And he actually came into a false sense of security. He thought that the roads would always be quiet. So he'd come to work in 7 minutes. He'd go, this is fantastic. Wow. We'd go around to the shops. He'd do Metro and I'd do Carrefour. I'd do Metro. He'd do queue to get in. So, you know, I just text him and say, I'm in a queue of about 100 people. I'll get back when I get back. And he would be like, no problem. And you go in and people would be stepped away from you. They wouldn't look at, like, usually if you're in a queue that long, people would be chatting to each other. People wouldn't even chat to each other. I mean, unless you met somebody you randomly knew. It was bizarre. And in the supermarket, if you both went to the same bit at the same time, you both stand back as if to go, oh my God, don't come near me. And that would be the only eye contact you had. I would see people just walking with their heads down the whole time around the supermarket. And the only time they lifted their head was to pick up their yogurt and go down again. It was, you're right. This fear, wasn't it?
Yeah. But you could, it's incredible, you could feel it.
Yeah.
And I thought, you know, because it didn't sort of bother me. But then I thought, when I got a feel of that feeling of fear, and just seeing the way people were, how people's behaviour had changed. Yeah. I thought maybe I'm being I'm being a bit flippant about it, and things are much
maybe
more
you should
serious.
stop wiping your nose on stuff.
Yeah. And I didn't. I thought maybe I wasn't wearing a mask at the time.
Did you have to wear masks in Spain?
You did, but I was one of the naughty ones who just like.
Did you get the vaccine?
I got vaccinated only because I had to go to Australia and to get into Australia.
And have you had any repercussions from that?
No, none that I know of. I did 2 weeks in quarantine the first time I went back, and then the second time I didn't have to. I just missed it. I just got back. I was on my way back, and they dropped the quarantine. But I mean, actually, it was all right after being in a boat. Doing 2 weeks in a hotel was all right. You know, after living in a cabin.
That was like a luxury, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Hold on a minute. Nobody's bothering me. This is fantastic. Somebody feeds me.
Yeah, bring food to me. And
so what do they do? Just put it outside the door, ring the bell?
Yeah, and knock on the door, leave it outside the door. And at TV, I had a little exercise routine going on.
It's mental, isn't it? All the stuff that people... I mean, I had people phone me. Obviously, we all had nothing to do most of the time. So I'd have people phone me who were in quarantine in a hotel somewhere in the world, like a chef I was working with. They'd just call me for an hour and 45 minutes. I didn't think anything of chatting bullshit for an hour and 45 minutes when COVID was on, because you had nothing to do.
Yeah.
You know, you can only watch so much Netflix, can't you?
I got to read a few books that I'd been meaning to in a while, and I think I had a jigsaw puzzle. I put that together, and like I was saying,
So once COVID had all finished,
yep.
Which probably was what, 2021 at some... I mean, we still did lockdowns at the end of 21, I think, and at the end of the season, I'm sure of it. Yeah, must have done that. But it was 21, no, maybe to the start of 21 before the season again, there was another lockdown. But 2022, you opened a business.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, good question. It had been on my mind probably for the last year, prior to leaving the boats, and it just seemed like natural progression. I wanted to utilise my background. I didn't want to give that up. You know, that's what I know, the chefing background, and something I'm confident with. And to do the agency, I'm not sure why I chose the agency. Maybe it chose me. And I thought, and maybe it goes back to what I was saying about taking on something difficult, something new, something difficult, and something that was going to test me.
But transferable skills.
Yeah, at the same time.
And you're based in Palma.
Yeah.
And so, how do you advertise? What's your way of getting out there? Because I'm always interested in how people want to advertise and how people do advertise.
I've been advertising in the Islander magazine. It's a bit odd. People have been contacting me, and I've been getting work through, and I don't know how they got my...
Do you never ask?
No.
I always ask.
Yeah. Maybe I should.
I didn't used to, but I used to be so curious that now when somebody, like yesterday, a guy phoned up, started chatting away, like we're best mates. I was like, fantastic, lovely. You know what chefs are like, very friendly and very open, a lovely conversation. And then I went, how did you hear about it? He went, oh, just Google. Because that's rare. Usually it's a recommendation from another chef, or yachting pages maybe. Is quite popular because I think a lot of crew look there when they get to a new place to find certain stuff.
Okay, I'm not sure why I don't ask that. You know, how did you hear about me? Maybe I feel like maybe they think I'm suspicious of them. Like,
oh really?
No, I don't know, because I had one guy this is probably 2 weeks ago, and he's looking for a chef for a Saudi family. And he said, somebody gave me your number.
But wouldn't tell you who.
I didn't ask. I sort of just left it out. I mean, in fact, that he'd called me. I thought, yeah, okay, great.
So, do you think it's rude asking? Do you feel like you're breaching some sort of code?
No, it's just more of a personality thing. I mean, I don't really care at the end
You should
of the
ask,
day.
100%.
Okay.
You need to know where your trade's coming from, because then it gives you an idea of what's working and what's not.
Yeah.
And I think I'm starting to learn that now. Everybody I ask, how do you know? How do you know? I had a guy phone up here in a big boat. I mean, I just happened to be here on a Sunday night. How stupid is that? I'm here at 7:30 at night on a Sunday. That's how bad things have got.
I'm sometimes working.
And the
on
landline
a
rings.
Sunday night.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm always working it, but usually be at home doing it on a Sunday night, not in the office. But I came in to do a few things, and 1 hour led to 7. So before I know it, it's 7:30. I'm like, oh my god! But the phone rang just as I was walking out, and I was like, why would a salesperson call on a Sunday? Do you know what I mean? It doesn't usually happen. So I picked the phone up, and I was probably quite sarcastic because I think I answered it in a quite Sunday evening service, something silly like that. And the chef said, "Hey, is that Damian?" I went, "Yeah." He went, "Oh, I was given your number by a chef. Got to call you. I've got a charter starting Tuesday. Can you do an order for me?" I'm like, "Yep, no problem. Give me your email." Sat on my computer, set up the online account for him, sent it to him. He said, "Yep, I'm in." Sorted him out to get logged in, all that kind of stuff. Took a few minutes. Then he turns to me and says, "Oh, it's a 90-metre boat." Well, that never happens. Nobody just randomly calls the office at 7:30 at night with a 90-metre boat, basically, because nobody would know, because who's here? Yeah. Really nice order, really good chef, really liked the food, happiest person I've spoken to this year, very, very pleasant, and I was like shocked, just shocked. But I said to him, "How did you?" He said, "Another chef gave me your details, told me the chef." I was like, "Okay, great, lovely." It's a bottle of champagne for that chef, isn't it? I'll speak to him.
Yeah, maybe that's something I should do more. Yeah.
Well, the other thing is, if it's somebody you know, you can thank them, which makes them feel good, and then they want to do it again. And I think that's part of the deal in this sort of industry, is when somebody recommends you, it's because, one, they've got good service from you themselves, maybe. Maybe they just like the stuff you're putting out there on social. Like, it seems like he's got his head screwed on. Maybe it's just Google. But if it's somebody who knows you, when you speak to them next, or you can send them a message, you say, "By the way, I really appreciate that. That's really kind of you to pass on. I really appreciate it. Make sure you come and see me, have a coffee sometime." And when they come and see me, I'll give them a bottle of olive oil to take home to their wife or something, or just something to say thank you. Because a lot of the time people actually don't expect anything, but
just
a thank you sometimes makes people feel really, really happy, because you were grateful. And I am grateful when people do that, super grateful. And I haven't asked in the past, but now I ask because I like to know.
All right, I'll take that on. I'll take it on board as a
see how it
policy.
goes.
Yeah, it's I have found certainly the people that know me, or that have worked with me, or people that have been associated with me in the sort of yachting industry, they're like my biggest advocates, really. They're the ones who like spread the word and tell other people, and so they're the ones who've had experience working with me. So.
What is your opinion on dark chocolate and red fruit, not cherry? So dark chocolate with strawberry or raspberry, for example. How do you feel about that combination?
I'm a purist man. Yeah, I'm.
So what chocolate would you put with the strawberry or raspberry?
Darkest, 80%.
Yeah.
Bitter chocolate. Yeah, it's sort of a contrast because you got the. Well, when I say contrast, if you're doing an 80% bitter, and you're putting that, because raspberries can be quite sort of bitter or sour at the same time. So you've got to be, maybe you want something like a 70% with raspberries, and an 80% with strawberries.
I like a white chocolate with my red fruit, except cherry. Cherry almost, especially the Valrhona 70%. The Valrhona 70% almost tastes like cherry. So I think it actually goes really well with a cherry. But I'm really against and it's something I ask a lot of chefs their opinion on it. A lot of chefs much better than me, but may I add, like yourself. But I like white chocolate with a raspberry or a strawberry, and I like caramel and milk chocolate. For me is more of a caramelly flavour, and then dark chocolate. I like it to be dark chocolate, maybe with nuts possibly, but definitely not with fruit other than a cherry. Am I right or am I wrong?
Personal choice.
Chemically.
Personal choice. You can. Food's such a subjective thing.
Yeah.
I mean, here I've just made this fantastic meal for you. Actually, funny. Funny show. I should say that. My Russian girlfriend and her 15-year-old son, and I made him pasta carbonara 3 nights ago.
I thought you were going to say, and her husband.
No, the husband's long gone. But I made him pasta carbonara.
Yeah.
The way I make it.
With pineapple.
No pineapple. But, you
could do that just to fuck people's minds, actually, if you had a restaurant, isn't it? Have a traditional carbonara and put pineapple in it. It'd be like, people are like, what the...
Someone would buy it. Someone would pay for it. But anyway, I made this carbonara for him, the way I make it, which I think is pretty tasty, and he didn't like it.
What did you put in it?
He's a fussy eater.
Right.
It's just like cream and garlic and smoked bacon.
Yeah.
Salt, pepper, reduce the cream, and that's pretty much about it. But yeah, he didn't like it.
So you would say traditional carbonara.
Yeah.
Which mushrooms did you use?
No mushrooms.
Oh, you didn't put mushrooms.
He doesn't eat mushrooms.
Does carbonara traditionally have mushroom?
Not the way I remember.
Okay.
No.
Whenever I do it, I always use mushrooms and bacon, not pancetta, because I don't have pancetta lying around, basically. But I always use mushrooms, but I don't know if it's traditional or not.
Okay, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Have you? You just said the words picky eater.
Yeah.
No,
He's a fussy eater.
Fussy. So have you ever seen that video of that geezer, the doctor in America? I'm going to show it to you because it's one of the funniest things I've ever seen, and I only saw it recently, and I was just, that is hilarious. And I just want to show you this when he says, "You're not a picky eater. You're not a picky eater." This is the... Yeah, here we go. Are you ready for this? This is one of the funniest videos. It's on TikTok. Of course it's TikTok, isn't it? See if you've seen this.
Here's my concern. Even though I'm glad you lost more, is nowhere near the goal I gave you, and it took you twice as long to do that this time. And if you double what you lost the first 2 months, you're just about to the weight loss you had this time. So what you're losing each month is still the same. So you still haven't made much of a change in your eating habit. And that's the issue right now.
I thought I had, and I was doing better. I mean, I definitely stick to my diet. I'm actually really proud of myself because I know what I've been resisting.
So if you think you're doing better, then what changes you made in your eating habit?
I eat a lot of vegetables and a lot of protein now.
A lot? Why you eat a lot?
Well, okay. I don't eat a lot, but I eat a variety, I guess I should say, of vegetables. I'm trying to open my horizons to vegetables because I'm a pretty picky eater sometimes. And I've been trying different, like, fish because I know that's healthy for you.
Okay. First of all, no matter how you want to say it, you're eating a lot. And you're not a picky eater if you're 600 pounds.
No, you wouldn't be a picky eater if you're 600 pounds.
The actual edit of that's much better because she says, I'm a picky eater, and he just goes, "You're 600 pounds, you're not a picky eater." But it's a famous meme that's been used now by a lot of people about food, but it's quite funny. But I don't know why I got on to say, because you said he was a fussy eater.
Yeah.
So she did a carbonara and he didn't like it because... How does that feel as a professional chef? If you cook something at home and someone goes, tastes like shit, mate.
I was disappointed. I ate it. I was disappointed.
Were you?
I said, okay, do you want something else to eat? I mean, he ate some of it, but I said, I'll make you something
Were you
else.
sarcastic? Do you want
No.
something to eat? Was it not the right shape?
I was sort of sympathetic, and I know he is a fussy eater, and he's a good kid.
Yeah.
This is sort of goes back to our earlier conversation we had about about becoming responsible for a family late in life. I'm living my life in reverse now.
Yeah.
Taking on a business.
Is that how it feels?
Yeah, it does.
Really?
Yeah. So things that my mates in Australia.
When did you meet her? How long was it?
I met her 10 years ago.
Okay.
10 years ago, but I was still involved with the boats, so
Yeah.
I was always coming and going.
Difficult to have a full-term relationship.
I was always just coming and going.
Yeah.
And back to the boat, back to Australia. I'd go off sort of travelling. So things weren't serious.
Yeah.
But it's become much more serious now since I've left the boat. In 4 years, I can see the progress.
Yeah.
And it's been as much about me. How would I put it? Learning how to be a normal person.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Is that how you look at it?
Yeah.
So you think you've lived an abnormal life then?
In some ways, 22 years on boats.
Yeah.
It's not. I don't know if it's. I'm not sure if to say it's abnormal, but
Institutionalized.
yeah, it's not a normal life. It's not a tip.
Yeah.
It's not a typical life. Being on boats for 22 years.
Yeah.
And the boats I worked on were
Big boats.
they were big boats and they're hard boats.
Mm.
They were. One boat I worked on for 6 years, and the owner lived on board.
Oh, really?
And so it was.
Does that get quite tedious? I mean, if you're on a boat with an owner who's living on it for quite a while, is it basically the same foods being repeated all the time because he likes a particular menu, or does he say, "Oh, I quite fancy that rib thing you do," or "I quite like my steak. I'll have my steak tonight," and you know exactly how he wants it and what he wants on the plate. So, does it become a little bit less exciting as a chef?
Definitely, I can see when I left that boat, I was institutionalized.
Did you feel like you'd gone backwards maybe in your career?
Not backwards, but no. I mean, I'd stagnated.
I think I spoke to a lot of chefs about it, and most of them can only do so much time doing that before they have to go back to a charter vessel where they've got that excitement and thrill and the applause.
Yeah,
because when you're cooking, the applause is. I know it sounds silly. Even if that's what we talk about with your partner's son is. If it had turned you going, "Oh my God, this is fantastic," that's applause. It's that little jump inside you where you go, "Shit, I do know what I'm doing." It's almost like confirmation, isn't it? And when you don't get it, it does feel a little bit upsetting, doesn't it?
I was excited making it.
Yeah.
Because I thought he's gonna love this.
Yeah. And then he went, "This is shit."
I don't want it.
I remember years ago I had a friend round he was on a boat. I know him from the Alps. He came down here. He was working as a deckhand on a boat. And he was on for Christmas, and he was over in Monaco. And we'd been on the phone a few times, and I said, "Why don't you come over and have Christmas lunch with us?" And he said, "Yeah, because that'd be fun. Because how about if I come over in the morning, you have a couple of hours together. In the morning, I'll come over late morning. We'll have nice lunch. I'll stay for the..." I said, "Yeah, let's do that, no problem." So, and I'd really gone to town on the dinner. A basic start, but I'd done my beef Wellington, which is a little bit different. Instead of using mushrooms and Parma ham, I use courgette and truffle.
Okay, the courgette doesn't go soggy? Or?
It does, but you dry it out. Okay. So you generally, what I did is I almost minced it, and then I dried it out on a baking sheet in the oven, so it didn't have that huge amount of moisture in it, and that solved the problem. And then I put my truffle inside it, and then I wrapped that, and I used bacon, but I cooked the bacon slightly beforehand because there's nothing I hate more than uncooked white bacon. I just don't like it. So I cooked that a bit to get it sort of halfway cooked, and I wrapped that through it, and I did my thing. And the flavour worked like nothing I've ever done. I was really proud of myself. And we all sat there. We ate this beef well. It looked beautiful, and it tasted amazing. I had that truffly flavour, which is nice for Christmas, and it wasn't just truffle on the top. It really had this beautiful, smooth truffle flavour through it. It was beautiful. I was so proud of myself. Everybody sat there, amazing. But in my haste to make sure that this was the perfect main course,
what did you miss?
I had fucked up the dessert like nobody had ever fucked a dessert up. I knew it couldn't stay in the fridge. I knew it had to be in a warm environment, but I'd left it in the fridge, forgetting it because I was so concerned about this beef Wellington. And when I took it out of the fridge, the moment I took it out, it was all individual desserts, and I'd layered it with all my favourite stuff. So I'd had a biscuit base, which I'd made from scratch, of course, because I was trying to prove myself when I don't have that skill level. So I'm terrible at desserts. So I'd done a very thin layer of fudge, which I'd made dairy butter tablet. So when everyone arrived, I'd wrap them individually, so there was these sweets around the house in bowls and stuff, and I'd used that and put a layer in, gone rock solid. I'd put too much butter in the biscuit base, rock solid, like this. Fudge, too thick a layer, and because I'd mixed it for too long, it had gone rock solid. I put a layer of chocolate in, that'd been frozen in the fridge almost, rock solid, and it went on from layer to layer to layer of the most beautiful things that I'd fucked up so much. And I put it down, I went, I don't know how, I don't have a choice, I have to serve it. Because
you couldn't warm it up, or
it was too late. It was so fucking hard. This thing had just congealed into a rock solid ball of dessert. I put them out. This guy, he went, "Oh, it looks amazing." He put his fork in, and he went, and he couldn't get his fork in it. And as he put his fork in, and as he did that, it just flew across the room and hit the wall. It was the worst dessert I've ever cooked in my life. I went from hero to the villain in a second, and I think that says quite a lot about food. You're only as good as the last thing you serve, aren't you?
Yeah, definitely.
Easy to forget the great meal if you screw up the dessert at the end.
But particularly with, particularly with crew. I mean, you're probably your crew are your greatest critics or your best critics, and I'd say you got to live with them.
Yeah,
I mean that's the big thing too. So. You always got to try to keep it interesting for them.
Have you ever had any absolute disasters in a galley on a yacht?
One. Well,
Are you allowed to tell us?
Actually, there's been a few, but one that sort of sticks out more than the rest, and that's when I first joined yachting.
Yeah.
On my first permanent job that I had on a yacht, and we were in Israel at the time, and the head chef the owner of the boat was ill. Was in hospital, and the head chef had to go to the house to cook, but she asked me to make some desserts.
Yeah.
And she'd send the driver to pick up the desserts, and then he would take the desserts back to the house. And I made these moulded chocolate mousses, and they took quite a while to make. And the driver was coming back at 6 o'clock to pick them up, and I'd made them, and I looked at the clock. He's going to be here soon. I'll take them out of the fridge and I'll put them in, and I'll get on to packing them away. And I put the tray down. I didn't realise it, but I'd put them in the sun. The sun was coming through the window. Was coming through the window.
Yeah.
And so I just carried on with my work, and I was making the crew dinner, and then I sort of looked across, and they're all melted. I was like, what the fuck? What do I do now?
So that's my sauce.
I'm not sure what I did, but I pulled something together. But it was probably the reason why it was so bad at the time. It felt like a nightmare because it was my first boat.
Yeah,
and I'd only been on board probably 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And I thought, what are they going to think? What's the head chef going to think? Am I going to lose my job? Or
Do you ever watch MasterChef, the UK version?
No.
I definitely recommend it. It's just before Christmas every year, or maybe is it just before Christmas? I think they do the MasterChef professionals.
Okay.
Every year, pretty much. Maybe not every year. I'm exaggerating, but most years there's an ex-yacht chef on there, or they call themselves a yacht chef. Their name is Johnny or whatever, yacht chef. And they always announce them and go, "I've been a yacht chef and a private chef for however long." And I always, when I see a yacht chef on there, I always have a deep breath because I feel like it's representation of the industry. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And everybody sees these huge yachts and they go, "I wonder who cooks the food." And then you see one of them on MasterChef, but you don't know what they've been on. And there's different levels of chef, and there's different levels of yacht chef, and there's different levels of yacht. You've got 100 meters where there's a galley with 4 people and it's like a professional run like a professional restaurant. You've got 50 meters, which is very small galley. You can only do what you can do. You've only got so much space to store stuff, so you have to have it really well organised. But again, you can't maybe do the extravagant stuff you can if you've got all the equipment on a big galley. And then you've got 30-metre boats where there's nowhere to cook, no space whatsoever, no storage, you're shopping daily. They're different games, aren't they?
Yeah, probably. Maybe it's like running a business.
Yeah.
You've got to be versatile. Use what you've got.
Yeah.
To the best of its ability.
Yeah.
I mean, the smallest boat I worked on was 34 metres.
Yeah.
And then the largest was 80 metres.
Yeah.
So complete sort of contrast there. But it's fundamentally they're the same. Discipline, organise your time, good time management, good use of storage space, rotation of stock. I mean, it's all those just fundamentals to being a chef. And job and finish. Focus on what you're doing, get it done, and on to the next thing.
Yeah.
That was one of the things I learned when I was in London. What the hell are they talking about? Job and finish. And that's what the head chef used to bang on about.
Yeah.
So, do a job, get it finished, bang, and then next job.
Yeah.
So,
I should say it's the same in this business. 100%. If somebody asks for something through a WhatsApp group, don't go, I'll deal with that later. No, it's too late. You have to do it now, finish it. So if I'm sitting in my office there and somebody texts through, I need an extra bottle of 25-year-old balsamic for tomorrow's order. Yes, I can add it to the list. I can send a message through to the group saying balsamic has been added to the group for so-and-so boat to be delivered tomorrow. No, I just walk down the stairs, put it on the pallet. It's done. I know it's done. Job's finished. I obviously have to go and put it on the list and make sure it's charged. But if I don't go and put it on the pallet, the job's not finished.
Yeah.
I haven't even started it, to be fair. So it's very similar to... I feel being a provisioner in this industry is very, very similar to being a chef in a galley.
Yeah, it's very similar skills.
Very similar. Everything's got to be organised. You've got to have stock rotation. You've got to understand dates and times of stuff. I mean, I have shoppers go shopping, and the first thing you say to them every year, because you always have new people coming through on and off, you always say check the dates on everything. Everything. Because if you go to Metro and you're just buying cream, basically President 40% cream, you don't know what that one at the back, how long it's been there.
Yeah.
So you have to look at it. And it's very easy when you've got lots of orders on for them to pick up yogurts and there only be 4 days on them, because everybody's getting them from the back, because nobody wants yogurts with 4 days. So everyone goes to the back and those 4 days sit there at the front. Nobody gets them. And then if your shopper is not on the ball, maybe they had an argument with their wife last night. Maybe they were on the piss last night. Maybe their mum, they just found ill. You don't know what's happening in people's lives.
Maybe they don't care.
Maybe they don't care. Absolutely. I mean, I always like to think that's the last on the list of problems, but you're right. Maybe they don't care. And they just pick it up and put it in the trolley. And then the chef says to me, Damien, I've got 3 days left on this yogurt, mate. I'm going to Sardinia. Yeah. Of course, so what happens? You can't charge for it. You don't charge them. And, you've got a problem because the chef's been let down. So it's very similar to what you said about being on any size galley. There's the same rules apply.
Yeah. And what sort of you with produce-wise, where do you source your produce? Is it mainly here in Europe, or?
It depends on the produce, of course. I mean, we've got Stone Axe Wagyu in, which is fantastic.
And where's
beautiful.
that from?
That's from Australia, mate. It is one of the only full-blood Wagyu outside of Japan. Not the only, but one of the only. The quality is absolutely outstanding. I mean, whenever we sell it, every chef just goes, wow, the guests went mental. Great big tomahawks, about 2.5 kilo tomahawks. I mean, they're huge, but holy shit, they're amazing. The fillets, the sirloin, it's just beautiful, unbelievable. There's a podcast about that, actually. If you've got time, you should go on to it. It's only on YouTube. There's something wrong with the way the video is made, and Spotify won't accept it, but it's on YouTube. Really, really interesting, talking to them on a Zoom chat. A guy called Steve, fantastic guy, really knows his stuff. So obviously you have to bring stuff in from outside of France. I'm a big believer in local and fresh. All our eggs come from a local farm, but as the season gets closer to that middle portion, we start to get amazing French produce. Like, I have to be critical of certain places in the world because you cannot get good red pepper from Holland. Now, anybody listening from Holland wants to prove me wrong, send me some. But I haven't ever tasted a red pepper from Holland that's grown under lights in a tent that's got the same flavour as an outdoor grown amazing French red pepper. I've tried them from all over the world. I've never tasted anything like the French red pepper. So much so that my supplier, when they're in season, sends me a tray just for free, sends them to me and goes, I know you love your red pepper. I mean, you could squeeze them and it would look like blood coming out of them. They're just dark red. They're always a weird shape because they're grown naturally in the ground. And they are just stunning. I mean, beautiful. You chop it up and put it in someone's mouth with a blindfold on, they go, that's red pepper. Because it's what red pepper should taste like.
Yeah.
It's got that flavour and abundance of flavour, which you don't get. So much food these days is grown under lights and tents. Spain does it. Holland does it. I understand why. No complaints there. They're trying to keep the price down. They're trying to keep the crop going, not the crop. They're filling supermarkets with it. It doesn't belong on a boat, in my opinion. You don't have a choice in the winter. You have to take what's available because of the seasons. But if it's the summer and the French red pepper is in season, there shouldn't be a debate about which you're having, in my opinion. And I have hundreds of product which I know that's the case, you know. It's so important to know that as a provisioner. It's so important. I can see them from across the room and I'm like and I'll take a picture and send it to a chef and he'll go, you've been smoking something again, have you, Damien? Because you just sent me a picture of red pepper. And I go, yeah, but these are special. You know? And that's flavour, is it?
But chefs get excited
yeah,
about
they
that.
do. I'm taking the piss. But they love it because, and a lot of the chefs I work with love the fact that I'll randomly send them a picture of a French red pepper in the middle of July. Do you know, and some of them, every year they get the picture and they go, red pepper season.
Look at these.
Yeah.
Look at that.
And that's a great thing about food is you know when the season's in for a certain product you're in luck. It's like the Aussie winter truffle season's about to start around 15th of June.
Okay. I know so little about Australia now.
Oh yeah. Well, you've not been living there since when?
Since I was 25.
Yeah, it's probably changed, isn't it? It's probably not called Australia anymore. What's its pronouns?
Aussie.
but generally Australia has an amazing winter black truffle which is available in our summer. So here you get summer truffle.
And do you know where does that come from?
It's a good question.
Okay.
I'll have to get back to you on that. I actually had a farmer from, it was before I did the podcast, otherwise I'd have done a podcast with him. He does come back most years, so I'm hoping he'll come back this year. But he's a farmer of black truffle. When I say farmer, he's a truffle hunter.
Yeah.
But he's came and saw me a few years ago because an Aussie chef I knows him really well and said, you need to go and see Damian because he was on TV, and he rang me and said, can I come and have a chat? And he was great. But the Aussie winter truffle is amazing, and that's usually 15th of June, 15th of June, maybe for about 6 weeks to 8 weeks.
Okay.
But it's fantastic, really, really fresh, really beautiful, black inside, that lovely truffle flavour and full flavourness and earthy flavour, which you don't get from the summer truffle because truffle has to have moisture. That's why Alba white truffle kicks off in October when the rains come.
I went to the.
You went to Alba?
The truffle festival 7 years ago, 8 years ago.
It's amazing.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's amazing. This year I went last year again. I did a podcast with Tartu Flangi, which is one of the big truffle companies there. I worked for years. They're amazing, and I stayed up on the hill, overlooking the whole of the valley. And actually, in the morning, I walked out, and there's this layer of cloud. It's like a blanket lying over the whole of the Barolo wine region and the Alba white truffle region. There's a bowl, not quite as like this, but there's a bowl like this with a layer of cloud over the top of it. And that moment when I walked outside with my coffee onto the balcony and looked at this, it all made sense. Yeah. All of a sudden, because when you've been to those certain areas of the world where a product's famous for, you go, I wonder why it grows so well here. And I just walked outside and I saw this blanket cloud. I could feel the moisture in the air even though it was a sunny day. I could feel the ground and you can smell it. You can see all of the all of the vine vineyards and the vine crops all the way along the side of this valley, all the way around. It's just, and it's got the right slope for the wine to just get the right temperature and water. I mean, everything about it. and there's all of these trees which, you know, you've got to grow the perfect environment with this sort of dense, musty, earthy, wet, moist area. Mate, it's just absolutely fantastic.
There's probably not too many places in the world that are, you know, these special regions, special areas.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why they're special.
And there's a reason why they're
Yeah,
special. Yeah, you can get white truffle from southern Italy. You can get white truffle from Romania and Serbia. I've had white truffle from southern Italy, and I've compared it. I might do a video on that this winter actually, but I have compared it myself years ago because I had some ordered for a chef, and then I got Alba for another chef at the same time, and they were extremely different product. They weren't even similar. I mean, they were both white truffle, but it's like steak and steak. Yeah, fillet beef is completely different types of fillet beef. It was like that. It was really, really I was quite aware. And I had a captain of a boat last year just randomly phones me up. He says, "Do you sell white truffle?" I said, "Yes, if it's legal, then we'll sell it." And we'll find it. If, you know, people go, "Oh, can you buy?" Well, if it can be bought, of course we can buy it. It's just a matter of sourcing it, isn't it? But in reality, he said, "I've got these white truffles. I want to see what you think." So he came around. They'd been bought from an agent in Italy. Half of them were for the bin. I mean, I've got pictures somewhere. They were awful. They were just rotting. He's only had them a couple of days. They were just all tiny little shards. I sent them to Tati Flangi and said, "What do you think? I've just had this captain turn up with these." And she said, "Well, first of all, they need to be washed because they're rotting, but most of them are going in the bin immediately. All the ones with any darkness on them straight in the bin." She goes, "You've got a few there that look okay." She goes, "But they're just shards. They're tiny little bits." She goes, "We just use that in our olive oil and, you know, in our production. We don't use it as you can't sell that as a truffle." And he paid quite a lot of money for them as well. And he said to me, he said, "What am I?" He didn't say, "Am I being conned?" He already fucking knew. But he was generally just trying to get some new information about it. He didn't know a lot about truffles. Really nice guy, actually. And then when I got some Alba through, I sent him a picture.
This is what they should be like.
This is what they should be like. And I think he told me to fuck off. No, he didn't. He was very cool about it. But yeah, it was interesting to see the difference in the two. You know, one's selling shards and a ridiculous price, and another company's selling these, you know, huge. You see the video I have on Spotify from that podcast. I mean, some of these white truffles were 500 grams. Do you know what I mean? It's proper.
Oh, I remember at the Alba Truffle Festival. I mean,
It's great.
You walk around there, and I mean, it's just something else. And then you know, the fresh ones. And each day they go down in price.
Yeah.
And you've got to have within 3 days.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
people don't, you know, starting to disregard them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, and you know what? I think I was talking to Tata Flange. I'm sure she says it in the video, but I said to her, "You know, do you always sell the truffle?" She goes, "We could sell 4 times the amount that we have." She says, "We can only sell what we can get." She goes, "And that's the problem. There's only so much in the region on any given day." She says, "But if we had 4 times the amount, we would have 4 times the amount of business." And I was like, is there any other business in the world where there was 4 times as much people? Because, for example, they talk about high-end watches, you know? If there was 4 times as many, the problem with that is people wouldn't think they're special, so they wouldn't wear them. But truffle's something you consume, so you can have one today and one tomorrow.
I don't know. It sort of amazes me about, you say about expensive watches. And, you know, say Rolex watches, you know, you can buy Rolex watches at 10,000, 15,000 euros or dollars. But they're never, you can never not buy one.
Yeah.
You can go on the internet and you can buy one. They're not that rare. They're not
Well,
that hard to get.
It's strange because somebody said to me, if you go in the shop, you can't just walk out with a Rolex.
Yeah, that's
And I
correct.
said, what do you mean? They said, you can't just walk into a Rolex shop and go, "I'll have that one." That's not how it works, apparently.
No,
But that's just marketing.
no.
That's not the truth.
Pre-COVID, I think you could.
Could you?
And then all the luxury goods took off, like during COVID. You know, people buying luxury.
Why?
'Cause they-
What did COVID make? Do people go, "I'm missing out on life. I definitely need to get that
Well,
watch
like I said,
before I die of
all of a sudden they had all this
lung disease"?
disposable income. They had nothing to do with. They couldn't go on holidays, couldn't go to restaurants, stuck at home. "Oh no, I'll buy myself a luxury good."
Yeah.
But there, sort of, when COVID kicked off, I know that Rolex suspended. You can
Production.
yeah. Well, not so much production, but very limited production, because there was a spike.
So generally what they've done is they've stopped production, increased their price by 20%, made up for the shortfall in that way, and then stuck to that platform going forward and gone, actually, we do less work, earn more money, why the fuck are we making all these watches?
Yeah, they control the market.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. It makes sense. But it you know, it just seems, it's like I heard this, I saw a video, again, TikTok. I like a bit of TikTok. You need a bit of TikTok after a heavy day here, to be honest with you. You need something to relieve the pressure. But I was watching a video the other day, and was a video of somebody walking up to a Chanel shop and being turned away and saying, sorry, we're too busy. And they went, there isn't anyone in there. They went, no, there's 3 people in there. It's like you've built this great big shop that costs you, you know, $20,000 a month to have on the Croisette, and you're telling people they can't come in and buy stuff. Apparently it makes them want it more. It would make me want it more.
I guess it's a bit like as a Ferrari. Ferrari wouldn't sell, apparently Enzo Ferrari wouldn't sell Maradona. Maradona wanted to buy a Ferrari, and Enzo Ferrari wouldn't sell him one because he didn't like him.
Yeah. But I mean, obviously that's a high level where you get to that point where you can do what you want. But obviously there's a story that I had on another podcast about the Cristal wine with Jay-Z. He used to have it in all his videos, and then he was told he saw something where the head of Cristal said, I don't think champagne should be associated with rappers. So we went and bought into a brand called Ace of Spades. They created Ace of Spades, and then he had that in all his adverts, and then he made a lot of money from that brand.
Okay.
And so generally, so you don't want me to use yours, I'll advertise my own brand and make millions. Thank you very much. And I think sometimes that a brand can almost out-advertise itself, you know?
I guess it's got to, if it's a luxury brand, there's always got to be something exclusive about it, or else it sort of taints its own image. And
maybe we should put our prices up.
Yeah, good idea.
But the thing is, it is tricky, you know, especially with the bigger boats these days, because if they've got a lot of crew and a lot of guests on, there's boats out there with a lot of crew on and a lot of guests. It used to be 12, maybe 16. Now you're getting boats with 30, 35, 40 clients, you know, crazy size. And quite often they're not looking for, they just want Wagyu. They don't care what it is, just Wagyu. Could be French Wagyu. They want berry caviar. They want, you know, they don't want a top line of fruit juice or something like that. They just want something to be able to serve, because they've got 40 people on a buffet in the morning, or 35 people and 40 crew. And I'm seeing that there's a big difference in that, because a lot of those products, they're lower cost, therefore you're going to make less money by selling them, but you're still doing the same amount of work, if that makes sense. Your vans still cost the same, your staff still cost the same, but the actual product, if you leave your margin at the same, you know, if I put margin on something that's €1,000, or I put a margin on something that's €100, if it's the same margin, I obviously make more if I sell €1,000 worth of stuff. So if you're not selling those quantities, you're actually working and earning less across the board. Now, I understand people go, yeah, that's the deal. I get it. But that's what we're finding in yachting is there's a big, big difference now. You've got smaller vessels send the cruise shopping. You've got that massive boats who want it cheap and cheerful because they've got a lot of guests, and nobody's going to spend that much money on 40 people, because one person's paying the bill usually. So if you've got 39 friends with you, do you want it to be a €500,000 bill, or do you want it to be 100 grand?
But even big boats, you know, got budgets. I mean, a boat that I worked on years ago, the management company took over, and all of a sudden there was a budget for the crew. I mean, we were never outrageous for the crew, and we didn't feed them caviar or lobster, but we never had a budget. As long as we were sensible, and there was never a budget for the owners. But when the management company took over, okay, there's a budget for the crew and there's a budget for the owners. Yeah,
I got that the other day from a chef. Obviously, I won't mention any names or prices, but he told me what his budget was per guest per a day. I was absolutely shocked. And you just can't have the quality and the quantity required on that boat for that price. You can't have caviar, lobster, king crab, wild sea bass, 6 kilo fish, so on and so forth. The list is incredible, and expect to get anywhere near that price. In reality, it's not possible. I mean, sea bass is outrageously expensive here in the south of France. I'm sure in many places in the world you get wild sea bass 6 kilo, it wouldn't cost anything like this. But we're in that area where the suppliers know they can get it.
So what do you say? What do you say to the chef in a situation like that?
You know, you can't win that one. You have to lose in business sometimes. So you have to set a price for it and just stick to it, knowing that you're going to make shitty margins. But if the client's using you for their stuff, you're going to be okay. Some items is almost like a lost leader, basically, because they have to have it. And if you charge what you should, what your margin dictates to keep your business open, you will not have the trade anymore. He'll call you a thief.
Yeah.
So you can't charge that. So you have to charge less and just accept the fact on that particular line of items, you're not going to make any money.
Yeah.
And hopefully nobody, and if somebody phones you and says, I just want a 6 kilo sea bass, I'll say, well, this is the price, because there's no point in me working with you if I don't make any money, because I can't pay my staff, my electrics, and so on and so forth. So it's a very, very difficult game to play. I have some very good clients who buy a lot of stuff. I'll give them a very good price on those several group of items that they always don't want to pay silly money for. And it wouldn't be silly money if you were buying it in London. Even London, it wouldn't be that price. But here in the south of France, unfortunately, because there is some very, very high-end people with a lot of money, the suppliers know they're going to be asked for it. But my argument is, I'd like to line up, get into a restaurant, 100 yacht owners, right? We should do this. Great for your business, great for mine. Get them into a restaurant in Monaco at the end of the season, 100 yacht owners, and serve them a wild sea bass and a farmed sea bass portion without telling them, and ask them if they can tell us which is the farmed and which is the wild. Not criticising yacht owners, I'm saying nobody fucking knows. I mean, you would know as a chef, basically, because the fat layer, okay?
My bet is if you put on a blindfold, it would be very hard to distinguish.
Especially if you've got a sauce with it. You make a sauce, you prepare it the same, you decorate it the same. It's covered in sauce anyway. It's decorated lovely. I beg, most people wouldn't know the difference. I reckon 0.01% of people in the food industry would be able to guess every time.
And maybe it's just a lucky guess too.
And it could be a lucky guess. But if you think about it, the price difference is huge, huge. And I know a lot of yachts, they're going to want wild fish for the owners. I get that. I would as well if I was a billionaire and said, get me the 6 kilo sea bass. What are you even talking to me about this for? I've lost money talking to you. Get my fish. But when it comes down to somebody phoning me up and saying your fish is pricey, there's always a solution to that. Now, the two solutions are, I put the price down, don't make any money, go out of business, and you have to find another supplier. Or you get farmed fish. I don't know. You're an ex-yacht chef. If you said to me, Damian, that's outrageous, I can't pay that for sea bass. And I said to you, well, I can do it for this price. Mate, it's still too much. In London, I'm buying for 39 quid a kilo. I'm not paying it. And I said to you, well, how about farmed sea bass?
Farmed fine.
At 32 a kilo, you go.
That'll do.
Lovely jubbly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a battle though, isn't it? That it's a difficult game to play.
It's and particularly too if somebody, one of the guests asks,
is this wild?
In front of the owner, is this wild?
You should go, it's fucking furious. It's deadline on your plate in the super yacht. It's not having a great day.
It's just, guests can ask some pretty dumb things too. Actually, one boat.
We all can.
One boat that I worked on, one of the guests asked if we caught our own fish. And I was like, where do I have the time to bloody catch my own fish?
But I know some chefs, when they cross the Atlantic, they bang a rod over and catch tuna or something crazy, you know, and I see them bring them up. It's quite cool when they do that, but you're right. If you're sitting out
during season,
if you're sitting out opposite Eden Rock Hotel with Leonardo DiCaprio about to join the vessel, you're definitely not fishing off the edge, are you? You're trying to catch scallop.
Definitely not.
It's just not going to happen in a million years. But it's funny because people would say, how can you not get me a fresh turbot? We're in the bloody ocean. I get it. It does sound crazy when you go, actually, nah. People want fresh prawns. I get it all the time. People say, well, I was on the market and they had fresh prawns. No, they didn't. They had defrosted prawns because prawns aren't local to this region. The only ones you can get are pretty much the San Remo red, which come probably from between Sicily and San Remo area, that sort of stretch. Yeah. And they're very rare. They don't always have them. They're quite expensive and they're quite small. So if you want large red prawns and you say, I'll have them from San Remo, you're going to be waiting a while because I'm going to have to grow them. And I'm going to have to stop everyone else catching them, and I'm going to stop them getting eaten by all the other prey. So in reality, it's not as simple as that. And fresh prawns don't come from here. They just don't. They come from Mozambique and Sri Lanka coastline and places like that, Madagascar.
Well, yeah, well, you'd be surprised when you walk around you would know. You walk around the fish market. Actually, you'd be surprised about how much of the fish is farm fish.
Yeah, and defrosted.
Yeah, it's a lot of, and imported as well.
Yeah,
it's a lot. It never used to be so much.
Yeah,
but certainly in recent years.
Well, it's because the prices are cheaper for that sort of stuff. Yeah. And people say to me, well, I even saw it in Carrefour. If I went and bought my fish in Carrefour, I'd be out of business. Yeah. People would lose their mind with me, you know? Yeah. Imagine somebody found out I was buying fish in Carrefour for a super yacht. I'd be shot. You can't go buying your fish in Carrefour for a super yacht. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Now, if you're the chef and you go to Carrefour, you see something you fancy and go, oh, I'll do a dish for the boss tonight. That's fine. It's your choice. But as a provisioner, you can't win that battle. Because if they turn around and say your fish was shit, my cruise chef was in Carrefour picking up some flour and saw you buying it on the counter, you're finished. So you have to have good supplies for these things. You have to pay more there. Therefore.
So what's been your most difficult situation as a provisioner?
Oh, man.
There's been so many, has there?
So many. Yeah. I mean, so many. Well, you know, years ago I remember a chef phoned me up. We were supposed to do a delivery at like 11 o'clock in the morning. Those days was me on my own pretty much. Nice boat, a good guy. I'm actually friends with him now, even though he won't talk. Not talking to him in a minute because I took a picture of myself with Donald Trump, which I sent him when I was in America, and he doesn't like Trump, and I sent it to him to wind him up so he's not talking to me.
It was actually Donald Trump?
No, I was at his golf course, and there was a big photograph of him on the wall doing that. So I took a picture and sent it to him. He hasn't spoken to me since. Maybe he's just busy. I keep telling myself he's busy. I hope he's watching. But anyway, I love him to death, and he was on this boat, and he knows who he is. And I think it was about 11 o'clock, this delivery, and I was leaving my fruit and veg place, driving to his boat, and he rang. And I used to have this Jabra speaker on my visor so I could speak to chefs. By the way, I'll tell you how fucking crazy I am. I used to have a waterproof speaker in the shower. That's how scared I was of missing a phone call. I had a chef phone me, he says, what's that water? I went, I'm in the shower. He went, are you taking a phone call whilst in the shower? I said, well, it is 9 o'clock at night. I've got to have a shower at some point. He says, but why have you got a speaker in there? I said, because I don't want to miss the call. He went, that's why I work with you. You're a lunatic. But yeah, so he said, look, I need some extra stuff. Can you go to Metro and get it? I said, well, I'm on the way to delivery. I mean, I'm going to have to turn around and go back if that's cool. He went, yeah, I have to have it. So I went all the way back to Metro, picked all the items up, went straight back to the boat, got there. I didn't think there was a problem. I didn't see that being an issue. I delivered it. Next thing, I remember him raising the passerelle, and he stood at the end and just gave me a bollocking about being late. And I stood there and was like, I did have a guy with me. A guy was working for me as a driver, and we did this delivery together because it was a big order. Gave me a bollocking. I'll never forget. And my driver was round the other side of the van, smoking a fag, laughing. He went, to this day, he went, I've never heard anything like you. It was hilarious. Yeah. He was hearing you getting the bollocking was great. It was really funny. So I left, and I got in a van, and he was driving off, and I was just really quiet. I was like, I don't know what I've done wrong.
Sort of trying to process what happened.
What's just happened.
Was it my fault, or was it...
Yeah, what did I do? I'm not sure how I fucked that up. Yeah. And I think must have been 3 weeks later, he phoned me up. He'd been off to Italy, hadn't done any orders with me in Italy, and then he phoned me up and said, we're going to need his delivery in Naples and stuff. I was like, absolutely no problem, because, this is not the industry to get on your high horse. If If I deliver to you this week and you order from somebody next week, and then you phone me back, I don't go, fuck off. I accept the fact that you wanted to try somebody different. You wanted to see how the services compare. That's normal in a marketplace, isn't it?
Well, yeah.
You need to know. You need to know if the person you're dealing with is doing the job to the level you need them to do it at.
And you never know what directives they're getting from the
100%.
captain or the management company.
So you can't be too proud. If somebody phones you up three years later, having not worked with you, it's like, thank you for calling me. Jesus Christ! I mean, they're spending money. I'm happy. So I said, absolutely no problem. We got it down to Naples. When he got back to the south of France, I met up with him. We went and played golf, and he just said to me, I was really stressed. And I said, I could tell you were stressed. I was a bit surprised. He went, I was really, really stressed about work. He goes, and to be fair, I didn't know you very well. You came to the boat. I was recommended by the head steward, and I was like, what's going on here? Why is this guy being recommended? And I just didn't know you. He goes, but obviously I worked with a couple of other people, and I realised how terrible it was and how great the service was and the communication. So I was happy. He says, and it took me a bit of time to really get to grips. My first boat, never worked in the yachting industry, so. And I was like, mate, that's completely cool. I understand, 100%. I'd be the same, and I don't even think he knew why he got upset with me that day. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, you try and avoid delivering at lunchtime, right? But I've always said it's actually quite tricky, because what you've got is you can't deliver at breakfast. 9 o'clock's a tricky time to deliver, basically, because the roads are so busy. So you're always going to be late, or you're going to be dead early. And if you arrive early, they go, what the hell are you doing here 25 minutes early? And if you arrive after 9, they go, well, come on, mate, what's going on? Why couldn't you be here on time? You can't go in at 11:15 because they're having tea.
You got
and
like a
chocolate
2-hour
biscuit.
window sort of thing.
Yeah, you got it's 9:15 to about 10:30. 11:15, they're going for a chocolate biscuit and a tea, right? Wind down. Then they go back to work for a bit before lunch. So from 12 to about 1:30 is pretty tricky, because they're having lunch, of course. And then they're having afternoon tea about 3. Do you know, it's about 3 o'clock, everyone's having a bit of cake, another cup of tea. 5 o'clock, I'm fucking doing crew dinner, leave me alone. So sometimes I've had these conversations with chefs. I've gone through the whole thing and I've gone, is there really a good time? He goes, mate, come when you want. There's never a good time.
I know from being on boats too, that maybe for whatever reason, traffic, just the way things have worked out, the delivery arrives at lunchtime.
Yeah.
It arrives at 12 o'clock.
It's a nightmare.
And it's lots of unhappy faces. That's just like,
And do you know, it's like the Monaco tunnel closes sometimes.
Yeah.
If there's a lot of traffic, it closes. In fact, every morning it closes at some point. If you get into that section of road and then they close the tunnel, you could be an hour and a half more. That's it. You're done. Your van's stopped. You can't reverse. You're on the motorway. It's all over. You're not going anywhere. And now you know. And what you do, basically, you get to your fruit and veg supplier, everything else is in the van. You're waiting for the mini bok choy to arrive, right? And you're waiting. And the chef said the mini bok choy are pretty important. Boss said he has to have them. No problem. We wait. Texting the chef, we're leaving in a minute. What time's my delivery? It's planned for 9. Awful time to be in Monaco. Never have a delivery for 9 in Monaco. Suicide, really. You're asking for everything to go wrong. And then the van gets stopped just before the tunnel barrier goes down. That's it. And you go, I'll get the gun, because you know it's all over. Because you know that you're not going to be there till well, who knows when. I've had it going to Bola Sama. I've had it going all over the place. Traffic jams, accidents on the road, bridges falling down in Genoa.
It's crazy here in the south of France and stuff.
Utter madness. And you've got everybody still working. And the worst thing about not the worst thing about France, that's unfair on France. There's a lot of things that are worse. But one of the problems is with any country is, for some reason, everybody starts work at 9 and finishes at 5. No country has actually worked out, apart from Spain possibly with their siesta, but nobody's quite worked out yet that doesn't work for a modern country. You should have different industries kind of all through the day. I mean, nobody wants to start work at midday and work till 8, but it would help, wouldn't it? You'd have a lovely morning period where you can get up, do a few of the jobs you need to be done, have some relaxation, get the kids to school, spend some time with the wife. I'm floating with this. Just go with me. And then you leave the house at 11:40, or you leave the house at 11 to get to a job that you start at 12. But you go in, get a coffee, relax, and sit down at your desk and start working. Have lunch about 4, right? Finish at 8, go home, have dinner. no traffic either way. Everything's smooth. The business works better because there's people there for longer because you do split shifts. I mean, not split shifts. You do, you know, somebody comes in at 8, somebody's coming in at 10, somebody comes in at 12, somebody comes in at 2. The roads are quieter, right? The whole thing would work better for everybody, including customers. How many times have I got a yacht phones me 5:20 and says, I really need this for tomorrow? I can't get hold of anybody. Everyone's gone home. Not in here. I'm talking about basically in France. The business is closed. August, this is the busiest country in the world for tourists. 80 million tourists a year. And it closes in August.
Same as Spain.
Who came up with that idea? When it's your busiest,
Summer holidays.
you want to be open. They just close. Everything's closed. And what they don't understand is that the tourism industry relies on a lot of that stuff. And they're closed. A lot of my suppliers in France close in August. I can't get anything. Nothing.
No, I completely understand. So
It's
actually,
bizarre.
Well, actually, in Palma, you know, you're saying about, I was saying about the traffic. You've got, it's sort of like 9 o'clock in the morning. It's like traffic jams 4 times a day.
Yeah.
You got the siesta.
You got
People
Okay.
going to work. They finish work at 2 o'clock, 1:30, back home, and then they're coming back to work again.
At what time? 4:30.
4 o'clock, 5 o'clock,
Yeah.
and then maybe they finish 7, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock.
And so there's 4 traffic jams.
Yeah.
It's like my old warehouse. It had one road in, one road out, and there were hundreds of warehouses. I mean, in the whole area, hundreds. One road out, one road in. There was a boot. Probably don't know what that is. Do you live in Spain?
No.
Boot is like a more expensive IKEA. They're all over France. It's like a furniture shop, and their depot is near the start of that road. And the 18-wheelers come all through the day to fill it up with stuff and block the entire road, both ways, sometimes for up to an hour, which means the traffic coming in and going out is blocked for up to an hour.
Great.
And it happens 3 times a day. And I have no idea how there isn't a riot in the street. There's a lot of angry people, but then they get on with their day and forget about it, and it happens the next 2 days later. And it's just a continuing night. One of the reasons I had to find a new place to work. It just got too serious. Do you know what I mean? Like the driver would leave at 12 o'clock to be in Monaco for a 1:30, 2 o'clock delivery, and he'd phone me 5 minutes out of the warehouse and go, "We're not getting there. I'm waiting for an 18-wheeler who can't turn in the space because it's just a normal-sized road." And I'm like, so many factors are involved in not getting to delivery on time. It's unbelievable. You go to Italy,
It's almost
it's
like
impossible.
right from the. It's almost like right from the start, the odds are stacked against you.
They're stacked against you. It's like we had a delivery to Genoa the other day. It's 9 a.m. delivery. Van left at 5. 5 a.m. the driver got here. I looked at the camera. He literally came upstairs, had an espresso, and was gone. By 6 minutes past 5, he'd gone. There's nobody on the roads at that time in the morning. He got to the boat at 9:15. That's over 4 hours, and he didn't stop, even for a coffee or a piss. Now, with those odds, I remember in the old days, Grandad, Genoa was a 2.5 hour trip. Now it's 4 hours minimum. 4 hours, if you're not 4 hours, you're done. You're finished. And I was shocked when I was looking at, we have a delivery app, and I'm looking at how the hell is it? There's roadblocks everywhere. There's one lane open. There's contraflows on that road all the way through the tunnels. It's utter carnage.
It looks like to me, it's still the same old road system. I mean, they really haven't changed too much. And
It's completely different, which is why the bridge fell down, of course, because it was so old. Remember the bridge falling down, Genoa?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Awful business. I mean, that I think since that fell, that's when it went from the 2.5 hours to 3.5, 4
like
hours.
6 years ago.
Yeah, they've rebuilt whatever it is they need to rebuilt, but it's seriously long trip now. If you're going to Portofino, it's not much further. Do you know what I mean? It's crazy. Really is really tricky. And of course, every business has these problems. It's not like they're just exclusive to us.
Yeah.
Every provisioner has these issues. As soon as you go, where's the delivery? You're already planning. You know what I mean? You're going, right, move the chess pieces on the board because it's time to start planning. You know, somebody says I'm going to be in Cannes Film Festival, got to be in before 10. Traffic's a nightmare. rush hour? What time do you leave this warehouse to be in Cannes before 10 when you've got, you've got your fish arriving? And he says on a Tuesday, so the fish doesn't come in early on a Tuesday because there's nobody fishing on a weekend. So Monday they go fishing, they come in Monday night, Tuesday it gets shipped. It arrives with the fishmonger at 6, maybe 7 in the morning.
So you got
on
that
Tuesday.
I guess you got the limitations of other people.
100%. Fish, we don't, and people go, well, the Med's just there. Well, yeah, but you don't get sea bass from there. It comes from Brittany. It's cold water fish. It's not warm water fish. You don't want to sell warm water fish, which is supposed to live in cold water, because the flesh will be destroyed. As soon as you take it out, it's done. I had a piece of hake the other day. Obviously, it was coming from somewhere. As soon as the chef opened it, it's in pieces. It's come from warm water, 100%. But if you can't get it from somewhere and your supply gets it from somewhere else, it's from warm water. It's going to be soft and gooey. It's not going to be to the same quality as you get from cold water. Same with caviar. You get caviar, you don't buy beluga in the middle of the summer because it comes from warm water. You get Ossetra Gold, for example, which is coming from colder waters. Because if you buy beluga, half the reason you have it is for that amazing pop where you push it between your tongue and the top of your mouth. Well, that doesn't happen if it's from warm water because the eggs, the shell is softened by the warmth. So you want to buy Ossetra Gold, Ossetra Royale, something like that. I personally would love to sell you beluga all day long because it's more expensive, the margins are better, but there's no fucking point because it's not as good in the summer. That's a Christmas product. Christmas, New Year, your ski holidays, your Maldives trips, that's when you have beluga. And this is the thing, it's people need to know when it's best to get a product so you can get the finest product. If you want red pepper, buy them in the middle of the summer, get them from France, don't use red pepper the rest of the year. That's my opinion. I mean, obviously, I'm living in a fantasy land, but still, it's good to know these things. It's good to know where the produce comes from and when's the best time to have it. It's great, isn't it?
But it's also about educating people as to what the best products are and what times of the year as well.
It's one of the reasons I started the podcast. I wanted people to know you can't get white truffle in the middle of the summer. We've been asked for it maybe 5 or 6 times already this year because people don't know it's a winter product. They go, you must be able to get it somewhere. And I had this on Facebook a few years ago. I think it was on Rotational Super Yacht Chef's page. You know that one? Yeah. And somebody said, I don't know why I got involved, to be honest with you. I must have had a quiet week. They said, does anyone know where I can get blood red oranges from? This was August time. Well, the answer is you can't. And the reason is because they only grow in Europe. In Spain now, the Spanish season's just passed and the Italian season's just about to finish. So mid-June, you're not going to get any. The Italian ones are really, really good, but they're finished very soon. The Spanish ones, I haven't seen the red Spanish ones now for a few weeks, to be fair. It's a very short season. It's like Baltic white salmon. Have you ever had that?
No.
Finished mid-June, that's done as well. So it's white flesh salmon. It's amazing. So you can get it up to a certain point and then it's over. But the what was I talking about? You see, age.
The salmon and the red oranges.
The red oranges. So I saw this message on there, said, can I get any? And I replied, I said, no, they're not in season now. It's August. So, they come, and I wrote the dates, these sort of dates-ish. And somebody came back where somebody made a very nasty comment, typical response from provisioner. You can get anything if you want to get it. So I responded, I said, you're absolutely right. I can fly them in from Australia. The only difference is they won't send me a kilo as you've requested on your order. And if they did send me a kilo, it's going to cost you $800. So if you want a kilo of red oranges, I can get them from Australia. I can have the provider send them to me, ship them DHL. We can have them in 4 days, and it'll be €800 for a kilo. And I don't know any billionaire who's really that stupid, to be completely honest with you. He doesn't mind paying €800 for his caviar because it's the price. But if you said to him, here's a bill for that sanguine orange juice you had this morning, I flew them in from Australia, you're going to get sacked. Do you know what I mean? So it's some things are possible, but with a price tag. So you can't complain about the price in that scenario because you've asked for a product to be shipped across the world specifically for you. I mean, it
sort of shows an ignorance though on the chef's behalf.
I don't know if it was a chef or who it was replied, but
whoever
it was basically saying you can get anything. Yeah, you can get anything. That's not the point. The question wasn't at any cost can I get red oranges. It was, can you get red? Are they in season? No. Not in Europe.
I actually remember one boat that I worked on in the. I think we're here in France, and we're heading to Italy, and there's some olive oil that the owner's wife, she really liked this special type of olive oil that we could get in Italy, and she said, I don't know if I want to order a case of it. Should I order a case now and have it delivered, or should I wait until we get to Italy and we just pick it up there?
Yeah.
The delivery charge is going to be €70. I mean, they're billionaires, and she was umming and ahhing about a €70 delivery charge. And in the end, she said, "No, we'll wait until we get to Italy," which was those, common sense prevailed.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah. I mean, I have that quite a lot. We had a boat asking for, and the thing, this was tricky, I think, for the crew. I think you have a really tricky time. The boss or PA sends through, "Can you get this product for me?" Turns out it's an American product, so they ask us to get a quote. So we get a quote. It's obviously going to be more expensive. The shipping charges, importation, customs fees, and taxes. Okay? So a simple product you buy in Walmart for $1, by the time it gets here, it's going to cost you 15. And you want 100 of them. So €1,500, okay? For something you buy cheap. So, it's not always as simple. And then, of course, you get this ridiculous price for it. And the boat turns around and goes, "Mate, there's no way we can spend that." And then the first day, the owner gets on, and his wife says, "Where's my cereal bar?" And they go, "Well, it was quite expensive, so we didn't buy it." And she turns around to her husband and says, "How much does this boat cost you?" He goes, $100 million. What the fuck are you talking about? You can't have my cereal bar.
Yeah.
And that's a decision made by somebody, but definitely not the owner and his wife. And she now hasn't got a cereal bar that she has to and likes to have after yoga and has the right to want after yoga. That's what she has at home. She's on a boat with her husband. She wants a fucking cereal bar. Why shouldn't she have it? And basically, it's not been allowed because of some rule that's come from management or wherever. Whoever's making the decision is making choice, and then she's upset. And then we get the phone call from poor stewardess who's got it in the neck because she's the one in the front line. She's the one who's got the target on her back. Do you know what I mean? And she phones me up and says, "Oh, we've got to get the cereal bars as quick as you can." And you're like, right, you get it sorted, send the bill through, and it's all been fine. It's all fine. It gets paid. But sometimes I wonder about the decisions made, because I know if I was a billionaire and my wife said, "We're going to the boat," I would expect the list to go through to the yacht, and don't question it. If you need to, my PA will bring a bag on the private jet. It's not serious. I'm not going to die if somebody brings 12 bars of a particular cereal bar on the jet. I'm not going to get upset. As long as she's happy, then I'm happy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where's the problem?
And for sure, like you say, she won't understand, or they wouldn't understand.
Why would she care?
Yeah.
They've got €100 million boat.
We haven't got it. Why haven't we got it? What is?
I don't get it.
What is the issue?
I spend $1,500 just when I go out for lunch with my mate because I see something in the shop. It's $1,500 to I want my cereal bar. And I see this happen a lot. Not necessarily with a cereal bar. I was using that as an example that hasn't happened, basically, because I don't want anyone to turn to me and go, "That was us." But there's so many of those scenarios where there's a lot of umming and ahhing because people are scared to spend the money because they're told they're on a budget. But as soon as the boss turns up, that goes out the window. He wants his wine, he wants his steak, he wants his wife to be happy, his friends to be looked after, because he's worked hard, he's built up a business, he's sold stuff, he's bought a new boat, and he wants to have fun. He's on holiday. And we do the same when we go on holiday. Go on holiday, you see something in a shop, it's more expensive than it is at home, you think you treat yourself because you're feeling good.
Oh yeah, you're right. And there's nothing more embarrassing for an owner of a boat, for one of the guests, for one of the crew to have to tell one of the guests that, "No, we don't have that," or "We can't get it," or "No, I'm sorry."
It's a difficult conversation.
Yeah, it's when there's no good reason why they shouldn't have it. And maybe that's the key point.
I remember your ex-boat, actually.
Yeah.
We obviously won't mention names, but there was a particular bag of nuts that came from Waitrose, which was a mixed bag of nuts and raisins, and it was always ordered, and Waitrose stopped doing it. I think this is after you left.
Okay.
Waitrose had stopped doing that particular bag, I think all hell broke loose, basically, because that particular bag wasn't available anymore. We've had it with chewing gum. Somebody wanted a particular brand of cherry chewing gum. The boss always had it. Every boat, he had 3 boats. Every boat had a stock of it. One of them had run out. They said, "Can you get some?" I went on. I found out. I even phoned the bloody head company, which was probably Nestle, if I remember rightly. You know, need to speak to the person who's in charge of this department. Nah, it's not made anymore. Discontinued, 100% discontinued globally. Ended up buying a pack of 24 from a weird site in Brazil and hoping it would arrive, and it did. About 3 weeks later, this arrived, and I did. It's about all out of date. It's like about a year out of date as well. And I sent it to the boat. I said, "You can have it, basically, so you can prove that it's discontinued and out of date." I said, "You can have it for free. It's cost a fortune, but you can have it for free because I know you need to protect yourself. Because if you say, 'Sorry, it's discontinued,' you're going to go, 'Bollocks.'" So now you've got proof. The only box left in the world is a year out of date.
Actually, I remember one boat that I worked on, and the owner of the boat loved turkey burgers. He said if not for his wife, he would eat them 7 days a week. So lucky he had his wife, probably. But we're here in Europe, and he wanted these special type of burger buns.
Yeah.
We had them flown from the US, the Kaiser buns that he really liked when he was there. And there's a box that was flown from the US. I don't know what the cost of that was, but it was a lot for a box of 40.
It's funny whenever I get together with either yacht crew or ex-yacht crew, we always go down this road of stories. I remember last year we sent one of our guys, Patrick, we sent him to Ibiza with a suitcase full of white flour. It was Keta flour from a website in the States that had arrived about 10 minutes after the boat left on Antibes to go to Ibiza. And I phoned the chef. He went, that flour's literally just turned up. He went, "Shit, big problem. We've got to sort this out." So over the next 2 hours whilst they're travelling to Ibiza, it's determined that somebody's going to have to fly to Ibiza with it. So we stick Patrick in a plane, fly him to Paris, then fly him to Ibiza for the next morning. Gets in there in the morning. He's got like 15 kilos of white powder in his suitcase. He said to me, "If this goes wrong, you'll bail me out whilst they're testing it, won't you?" Of course, it's like he was terrified. He went, "I just don't feel that happy about it." He goes, I know it's not legal, so I don't care." He goes, "But I feel nervous." And I said, "Yeah, I completely understand what you mean."
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if they were to check, you wouldn't be going anywhere for a while.
For a while, and you're definitely having a cavity search. The first thing you're going to see, you're going to hear the glove, aren't you? And you're going to go, "Oh,
come this way, sir."
Oh man, you'd be on the phone to me, "Damian, you're going to have to. This is going to cost you." Do you know what I mean? So it is quite a funny industry in that sense. But your business now is placing chefs. And if anybody, people should contact you. And obviously I'm biased because I know you and we've always gotten very well. But, you're a chef who understands the yachting industry and you understand the galley and how it works. And you can read someone's CV and see their experience and know where they'll fit in. So this isn't just a matter of yachts should call you and say, "Hey, you know your trade." But also yacht chefs out there and chefs who aren't in yachting yet who fancy it should contact you because they're going to get placed on the correct boat for them as well.
Definitely.
It's not just anybody can place crew. And, badly, it's potluck. If you've got the skill level that you have and the knowledge, it makes it much better for everybody in that circle, doesn't it?
That's true. And also, it's what people forget too sometimes, that just about everybody had a first day working on a boat as a chef. I'd say most of the chefs that work on boats all probably came from land-based jobs. So everyone's had a first day.
Yeah.
And everyone, I think, the biggest thing for me, or why I was lucky, there was opportunity. I was in the right place at the right time. It's about creating other opportunities for other people to sort of join the industry. So,
well, how do they get in touch with you?
They can either go to the website, Ocean Earth Chefs.
Ocean Earth Chefs.com.
or they can they can contact me on 34.
Well, hold on. Do you really want this? 9 people watched this episode last year. They might all ring.
I'll just leave the website.
What we'll do is we'll on this we'll put your details in.
Okay.
Wherever we post it, we'll put in your website address. They can get your telephone number on there, can they?
Yeah.
Cool. We'll do that. So we'll put a little bit of information in about who you are and what you do and stuff. But definitely, in my opinion, I think everybody needs the best advice they can get if they're joining the industry, if they're moving boats. And I think, it's not that I think you'd probably agree. It's not that one chef isn't a good chef when he doesn't work on a boat. It's because he may have been placed on a boat that's not right for him. Would that be fair?
Yeah. Everyone's looking for something. Yeah, even owners of boats are looking for different types of chef, and not everyone's after a Michelin star chef.
Yeah.
Some people are just after a family. We want a family cook. We want family style meals.
Yeah.
And I've had, and even the large boats, the 80-meter boats. The owners of these boats, they can go out to high class restaurants or Michelin star restaurants probably any night of the week.
Yeah. When
they're on board,
and it doesn't affect anything. They can just wander down there, can't they?
Yeah, they can go whenever they like. And but when they're on board, maybe they want more sort of home style meals or simple food.
Yeah, healthy.
Yeah, healthy, simple food. But when guests arrive, that's when you got to crank it up.
Yeah. Even on a private vessel, if the owner's got buddies coming, colleagues, clients, suppliers, he wants to show off a bit. Yeah. That's when the nice wine comes out, the nice cutlery, all the staff put their another uniform on, and you've got to go for it, haven't you, with the plating? Yeah,
definitely. And
so you need chefs who can switch it up and dial it down, I suppose.
Combination chefs, ranging from boats that are 25 metres up to 100 and 130 metres. So everybody wants something different. So there shouldn't be any limitation on the. I guess maybe I'll try to rephrase that. There's probably whatever type of cooking you're doing or whatever type of chef you are, there's a boat out there for you.
Yeah. It's just about finding it.
Yeah. And
I think if people come to the right place, it's going to be easier, isn't it? It's going to make it a smoother process.
The right place and the right guidance.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And do you assist chefs who contact you about what the right way is to enter the industry? Do you discuss with them their careers so far and what's right for them?
Yeah, I have had chefs contact me who want to get into the industry. I said no, and I was very lucky and fortunate, like I said sort of earlier. So I don't mind passing on that information.
Yeah.
Someone gave me a break. Someone gave me an opportunity to enter the industry. So I now want to pass that on to to other chefs as well.
Yeah.
So no, I think it's a good way to return. But,
and for chefs out there who are not in the yachting industry, they've heard about it, they've considered it. What sort of wages are they looking at these days? If you're 30 metre, 50 metre, 70 metre, what sort of wages are there average wages in these categories or not?
There is and there isn't. It all depends on what the owners are prepared to pay. It could range for anything from, and how much they want to use the boat. So it could range for anything from like $3,500 or euros per month, and maybe the owner only wants to use the boat for a week here and a week there, and maybe you're working 6 hours a day, and then you've got other boats out there where they want their pound of flesh, but they're also prepared to pay for it.
Yeah.
And you could be looking at upwards of 12,000-15,000 euros.
Yeah, per a month.
Yeah, per month.
Rotation gig, would that be?
Yeah, rotations. It seems like everybody's chasing rotation now.
Everybody is,
and that's where the industry has changed too, because there's a lot more rotation jobs out there for everybody now.
Yeah.
Even for stewardesses and deckhands.
Yeah. Which
was unheard of years ago.
Yeah, I mean, I work with boats that everybody's rotating every 8 weeks. Yeah.
So the industry has become a lot more professional and a lot more, let's say, user friendly in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, listen, it's been fun. I'm glad you came to see us. What else are you doing whilst you're in the south of France?
I'm leaving tonight.
Are you really? Are you really?
Yeah.
You just came for this?
Yeah.
Oh my God, man, that makes me quite emotional. You've done that. That's really cool. It's been really good fun having you. I'm really happy that you made the effort, because a lot of people don't. It's a great opportunity for people to get to hear from you, and I think it's a crowded market these days. Anything you can get out there is to show people that you're knowledgeable, know what you're talking about, and have a really good passion for it as well. This is not just about making money. I think both of us are in the same boat, but generally we both love what we do. Yeah, we have difficult days. Running a business is hard. You're in Spain, I'm in France. Very similar issues. But it doesn't detract from the fact that we both are passionate about what we do. I know I make errors every day in some shape or form. It's impossible not to. But those errors that anybody makes, I think people like you, we're not trying to make errors, not being lazy. Things happen. The ground changes from underneath our feet sometimes, and we've struggled with many things to get our businesses up and running. I think you should be very proud of what you've done. You've moved from yachting on land. It's bloody hard to do. It's difficult. The wages are different. There's taxes. You've got to buy your own toothpaste. I mean, the list goes on, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, and probably one of the things I miss is the travel.
Yeah.
So I have to pay for my own travel now.
No, you have to buy your own business class seat. But thank you for coming, and it's been an absolute pleasure. And I think anybody looking for a chef job on a yacht, they should always come to you first. OceanEarthChefs.com.
Correct.
Cool. Thank you for coming.
Cheers,
Really
Damian.
appreciate it.